Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here at the Damage Report, where a lot is happening. Oh boy, the news is breaking. I'm breaking. Everything's broken. But we do have something that is mostly whole, and that is our co-host for today's show, Yasmin Khan, joins us once again. Yasmin, how's it going?
It's going very well. Very happy to be back here.
Glad to have you back. I know you've been up to a lot. I hear there's a second season of your show.
Yep. Season 2 of the Global Thread podcast is launched as of yesterday. The first episode, we talked about the issues between Taiwan and China, and coming up, we're going to talk about Belarus. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, geez, yes, there's been a lot going on there. So you're sort of touching on the Olympics, at least a little from your international lens. So that's fun. Yeah, the news is fun. The international news, so fun. Anyway, but we're very glad to have you here. We already had a big packed rundown where we were going to be talking about the upcoming reconciliation process and the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is now passed. We will be talking about that before getting into. So Yasmin's from Texas, and every time she's on, we like to provide a little bit of Texas news. And I swear it's not intentional that it's all highly negative, but we're going to be taking a look at the current state of the pandemic in Texas and what is being done to stop it. Spoiler alert, nothing. And then let's see, Marjorie Greene might be about to be done on Twitter. There's a cyber symposium full of cyber guys, so that's fun, and a lot more besides. Who write Mein Kampf? Who's to say? Honestly, we'll have a debate about that. There's a lot going on. But Yasmin, you ready to jump into this?
Absolutely, let's do it. Let's just get it over with.
Okay, you are. I don't know that I am. Oh, also, please hit the like button, share the stream if you haven't already. And there's a lot of other stuff going on. We'll update you as we go. But first, let's jump into this.
My sense of humor can be insensitive and off-putting. I do hug and kiss people casually, women and men. I have done it all my life. It's who I've been since I can remember. In my mind, I've never crossed the line with anyone. But I didn't realize the extent to which the line has been redrawn.
Okay, so in that you have Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's gone. That's his sort of way to dance around it and explain it, and we'll certainly respond to what he chose to say there. But I mean, that's your big news of the day. And I have to say, I did not necessarily see it coming. And if I did see it potentially coming, I didn't see it coming today or this week. I mean, things have been evolving. One of his accusers had a big interview yesterday. One of his aides has stepped down, but down goes Cuomo. Yasmin, were you expecting this?
I was expecting that it would happen eventually. I wasn't sure how long it would take, but I figured eventually he would, mainly because he's a Democrat. And usually the Democrats will hold other Democrats accountable in that respect. Same reason we lost Al Franken and a few others, I'm sure you remember. When he came out with his excuse where, I've always done this. I always just hug men, women, whatever, doesn't matter. I've never thought anything of it. That was pretty wild for, I think, a lot of us to hear, especially in the age following, the big Me Too movement came out a few years ago. It's kind of disheartening because we have all these big movements and it really does feel like you're preaching to the choir. The people who those messages are for either don't hear them because they're not in those spaces, or they hear them and they don't even realize that it's for them. We're doing all this for people like you. You're the problem. But until somebody personally in their life comes up and says, it's you, it doesn't even register with them. And then you have the issue of intentionality versus the action and the outcome of your actions. A lot of times in the state with cancel culture and things like that, we look to intentionality a lot to determine whether or not this is actually a good person. But in the case such as this one, the outcome is what's important. How much damage are you doing, and are you willing and able to learn from it? So you just stop doing it in the future. We don't need you as governor anymore, but also stop what you're doing because it's bad and it's hurting people. And hopefully Cuomo gets that bit of it by now.
Maybe. And we'll certainly talk about where this is going in the future. What I want to piggyback on something you said. What is interesting is, so you get into effect versus intention, obviously, which is a very important component of this, I think, both morally as well as legally. He is very much focusing on intent. But the thing is, like, a week ago or a few days ago, he was putting out those videos about, this is what I do. My grandmama told me to do this. Okay, so you're saying your intent was pure. Like, people responded and told you that that's not good enough, and you're now resigning. So you clearly get that it wasn't good enough. So why are you rolling out the exact same thing? What is the purpose of that? Now, we can speculate about the purpose. The purpose likely is still trying to do a little bit of damage control. Even if the damage control can't stop the damage of him having to resign, he wants to go out with as many people still being either on his side or believing that there's ambiguity, because we might speculate, and we will, about his next steps or what's gonna happen to him, but he is definitely thinking about that. So Yasmin, it is weird to hear him say, like, word for word the same thing about the hugging, ignoring what is actually in the report, which is not just about some sort of hug during a photo op. It's about a pervasive, threatening approach to a dozen women, groping that is in no way about, his grandma did not like cup his buttocks. That is not a thing that happened. His grandma didn't ask him about his tattoos or his piercings, but he just ignores all of that because it's inconvenient, to the image he's trying to maintain.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point about, what is his next move? What is he planning on doing in the future? Is he going to stay in politics? Because I don't really know how he could when his whole party is turned against him and asked him to resign. The president of the United States asked this governor to resign based on all these accounts. So it does seem like damage control to me, sorry. And actually, when you played that clip, I didn't realize that was a new one that he just came out with. I thought it was the original one. So it is interesting. At least he's sticking to his messaging, I guess, I don't know. It is crazy. I think people who are accused of things like this, though, it does take time to process and to understand what's happening. And a lot of times the public, we expect a turnaround very quickly. And we expect an apology very quickly. But in reality, if he's been living his entire life this way, it's gonna take some time for him to process, maybe go to therapy, I don't know, do whatever you gotta do to really understand the gravity of your actions and what came from it. And maybe in 10 years, he can come back and be like, I get it now.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that not happening though. Okay, let's talk about consequences. So what happens now for Cuomo, for his accusers, for the state? Well, for the state, apparently, Kathy Hochul will become, the current lieutenant governor will become the governor. She will be the first Buffalo native in 111 years, I'm learning. Also the first female governor of New York. I'm sure she would probably prefer that this was not how it happened, but that sort of symbolically is pretty significant that this guy who's faced all these accusations from women is being replaced by a woman. That said, in terms of Cuomo though, look, it's obviously better that he's resigning. I feared that he wouldn't because I question whether any of the normal sort of societal or shame-based ways that we get people to do the right thing don't seem to work as much. I mean, the fact that Matt Gaetz, who is being accused of really bad stuff, he has never even come within a mile of resigning. You pointed out earlier that he's resigning. Well, he's a Democrat. That was the only way that it was going to happen. Why do you think he did? Is this about just damage control for a future political thing? Is this about damage control to potentially defang legal challenges that might be coming? Because of course, resigning doesn't mean that now the slate is clean. he doesn't have anything to worry about. What are your thoughts about all that mix?
As far as why he resigned, I just assumed that it was for pressure from within his own party. I don't think he understands he did anything wrong. As far as the legal implications of it, I mean, yeah, what you said was correct. Everything is still going to be there waiting for him when he's done. I don't know if that would help his case, if it would make him look more favorable to a jury or to a judge or anything like that. Like, oh, at least he admitted it. At least he acknowledged it. At least he's already suffered some consequence, a huge consequence of his actions. So maybe whatever sentence he gets, if and when that happens, could be lesser. I don't know. We're really just gonna have to see. Like, all of this is developing so quickly too that it's kind of hard to keep it all straight and remember what's happening and when. And I mean, this just broke 20 minutes ago or like an hour ago or something. And yeah, I wasn't expecting it today. I thought it was gonna take a little bit longer, but I'm interested to see what comes from it, especially with the New York State that he's dealing with.
Yeah, I don't know, but man, things really have turned in the last year. Like I was never into the weird Cuomo stuff last year, but he had a lot of supporters. People were talking about him potentially running, which never made sense to me, but I
think that was like a Giuliani type thing, where Giuliani was kind of pushed up after 9/11 and everybody thought he was the greatest thing to happen in New York City. And then Cuomo with COVID and, well, at least initially we thought he was doing a great job with COVID. And then that turned out to also not be the case. So yeah, sure. I think, yeah.
Yeah, maybe he'll follow a Giuliani path. Maybe in 20 years, he'll pop up as like a legal aid to, like scandal-ridden President Pete Buttigieg, and gel will be leaking down his face, and he'll have pizza stains on his tie. Maybe that's what's happening to Cuomo.
What a nightmare! We're watching it all happen. We're watching the beginning of something very strange brewing.
We are. So anyway, that's what we know immediately. We will see if there's any big developments. Obviously, legal developments might be coming, and probably career developments. People have been speculating about whether he'll try to launch a show, co-hosting something with Chris Cuomo or something like that. There's some talk of between two Cuomos, but I think he's probably going to disappear for, I'll say, like, one comedian, hiding out in the hinterlands for a bit period, and then try to return either as a lobbyist or something. But I do see it being difficult. Like, I don't imagine he's gonna be running for president in 3 years like that. I don't know, maybe I could be wrong. America fails me quite often, but that seems weird. Anyway, we are going to take our first break though. When we come back, we're going to get back on track and talk about what's going on in the Senate today, what is likely to happen throughout the day. We've got a lot to come after this. Welcome back, everyone. Let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Alan Carlson, welcome to Tier 1 YouTube membership. Enjoy the badge and those emojis. Hope you have fun with it. Let's see. Franklin Sharpslicer in a super chat says, Khan loved you in Star Trek. 'Twas a joke, but what the heck? You are in good company with Dragon Daddy, and he will suffice as he suffers from being terminally nice. May the rest of us be afflicted and never recover. Thank you, Franklin. That's nice. Like the Star Trek throwback there. Yeah. Oasis says, Cuomo now the second straight elected governor to resign amid scandal. Yeah, and still rare. Like so many should. We need more presidents to resign amid scandal. You never suffer any consequences, man. Like you got to go back more than a half century. Anyway, Yoda says, John, your ability to stifle your yawns after the pre-show for the main show is nothing short of remarkable. Yeah, I don't. So Yasmin, I'm sure that you don't know this, but so we do a pre-show before the show, and I yawn horribly at least 3 times in every one, and basically never during the main show. I assume it must be because having awesome co-hosts makes me much more invested in what's going on.
Is that like some psychological thing that you've done to yourself, conditioning?
I don't know. Maybe I get it out, Anyway, recovering pagan in the Twitch comments said, to be fair, John, you don't know that his grandmother didn't teach him all this creepy stuff. Grandmothers can be perverts too. That is true. I don't know. I don't want to malign any other members of the Cuomo family. Does this is this better or worse for Chris Cuomo? Because he's been under a lot of criticism for not addressing it and the weird relationship there. Does this make it better now that he's resigned? Maybe there'll be less questions for Chris Cuomo?
I think he definitely has to talk about it at this point. How can you not? I never was that mad at him for not talking about it because I was like, there is a conflict of interest. What is he going to say against his brother? And if he does say anything against his brother or pro his brother, no one's going to believe him anyway. So that didn't bother me as much, or I didn't expect him to. But now he has to say something, and he should probably defend his grandmother.
Probably after all the attacks we're lodging against her. Yeah, for me it was. I was never mad that he wasn't talking about it, both because I sort of understand the conflict of interest and also because I don't watch those channels. But it was more that we have this weird thing where a family would have a governor and a host of a show like that. It's not about him or his actions, it's about the system. Yeah. Let's see. Kyle in the Twitch chat says, I'm not sure of the awesome co-host explanation. You also don't yawn when you're on with Brett. Damn, that's brutal, Kyle, 8315. Anyway, Gabby says, wearing my purple dragon shirt today. That's awesome. My favorite one. David Lucero says, hey you. I say hey you to you, David Lucero. Okay, Julia says, it's making me sick how people, especially women, are defending him and going on about a picture one of them made with him like it excuses anything. Yeah, people can be awful in the worst areas. By the way, we talked yesterday on the show about AOC, referencing her fear of sexual violence on the 6th. And I tweeted out a reminder of a story of when the DHS had this like private Facebook group where people were sharing all these like negative things like depicting her sexually. And in the comments, people are the worst, like attacking her for fearing sexual violence. Sometimes I just want to crumple up the whole universe and chuck it into a garbage can that presumably wasn't crumpled up. But anyway, we've got other news to get to, so we'll be back after this. Okay, back at it. Before we jump back into things, I have a few things to let you know about. For instance, did you know that we are going to be ending the multicast of TYT on TDR? So what does that mean? Well, the live stream of the Young Turks played on the Young Turks YouTube channel. It also played on the Damage Report YouTube channel. That will be stopping next Monday, August 16th. Gone. If you'd like to watch that live stream, you of course can, but you'll have to go to youtube.com/theyoungturks. You can subscribe and get notifications and all that. It's still just as available. And while we loved, Blue Lizard Guts says, get wrecked main show. No, this isn't my choice. I'm just being told about this. I'm totally fine with it. I love that we had our own community. And honestly, I think it provided a better chat community. But anyway, that's done for now. So, go to youtube.com/theyoungturks and you can subscribe and still watch it. And it's still available on Twitch and on the members app and all that. Still available in a lot of different ways. You know what else is available? Every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. That is Rick Strom live with TYT Sports, available at youtube.com/TYT Sports. He talks about sports, but not just sports, also politics, gaming, does a bit of a live Q&A, that sort of thing. That is available every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. So even more content to look forward to. And no multi-stream of that either. That I did get involved in. But anyway, with that, why don't we talk about what's going on off in DC? This is going to be a big week for the budget and for a couple different forms of the budget. Actually, as we were preparing to go live, the Senate passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill. That is, of course, if you've been following this, the smaller, much more pared down, specific, hard infrastructure bill. And we're in the process, basically, of launching into the conversation around what is supposed to accompany it. What we were told would accompany it, which is the reconciliation version, which is not expected to be bipartisan because the Republicans don't give a damn. So there's going to be a budget blueprint, $3.5 trillion. We'll give you some of the details today, but understand that, of course, we've been breaking down the details over the past month or two. So it is all available. But the budget resolution, which Senate Democrats hope to pass by the end of this week, would allow the caucus to piece together social policy legislation this fall, paid for by raising taxes on the wealthy, large inheritances, and corporations. Although don't get too excited about that. We'll give you the details. It might not be as good as they might want you to believe. So Democrats are going to be taking this measure up as soon as that bipartisan infrastructure bill is passed. That is now done. So that will be happening. Together, the measures could secure virtually all of President Biden's $4 trillion economic agenda, rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, rail lines, water systems, and electricity grid, while expanding public education, social welfare, and healthcare, and remaking the federal tax code, while also having at least some, if not what was promised on climate and dealing with the climate crisis. They're going to be aiming to reduce carbon dioxide emissions and prevent wildfires, fund research on the effects of climate change on agriculture, create a civilian climate corps to carry out climate-related public works and make the nation's coastlines more resilient to the damage caused by rising seas and stronger storms, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. But that said, these are two different processes. And Yasmin, as I alluded to earlier, we have been told in varying forms from different people that one might pass or the other might pass, or that both need to pass or nothing passes. So there's a lot out there. As we launch into this week, what are your expectations?
Oh, my expectations. I think this is one of those times where I don't know. I kind of don't have any expectations. It seems a little too good to be true as far as what is in the bill. And then there was a whole deal with the cryptocurrency, and I don't know what came from that, because all this is happening right now, and I haven't seen any updates yet. The infrastructure bill, though, is so long overdue, and it's very easy to say we need better infrastructure in this country, but the act of actually getting that done is much more difficult. Sometimes it involves displacing communities and reworking communities altogether, redesigning cities, things like that. I live in Houston, Texas, and this city is built on freeways. We have no rail. Well, we have a rail system, but it's very small, very limited. We have a bus system that nobody likes to use. So as far as going green and then having better cities and having quieter cities and having better infrastructure, there's so many factors that go into all of that. Another thing that was mentioned in the bill was the coastlines and protecting them from stronger storms. And I live in Houston, so again, this is another big issue for me. And in Houston and Galveston, which is the actual coast city, about like an hour south of Houston, it's about 30 minutes south from me. We have the Galveston seawall there. There was a huge hurricane back in the year 1900, so they built a seawall to help protect the city from the storm surge and things like that, and it's helped a lot. It hasn't really been updated though. A few years ago, about over 10 years ago now, we had another huge storm and it wrecked it, and nothing's really been done to fix it. And all of that is infrastructure. And the reason why it's an issue is because the Houston Ship Channel and all of the Houston oil and gas industry is there. It's all very vulnerable. So if a big storm comes, that's a national issue, maybe even has international implications. This bill is very important. It feels very big. It feels like a lot to get through. I don't foresee it going through without any big opposition, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm going to attempt to work through what I think is going to happen, understanding that there is a lot going on, obviously, and we don't. Okay, so supposedly what is supposed to happen is that you have the bipartisan bill, you have the reconciliation bill. If both need to be approved or neither will be approved. Now, why would that happen? Well, if Manchin and Sinema tank the reconciliation bill, then theoretically we won't have already had a House vote on the bipartisan bill. So the progressives together can tank that. In that case, nothing would happen. In theory, it could also happen in the opposite way, although that doesn't seem likely to happen. So the end possible outcomes are you only get the bipartisan bill, you only get the reconciliation bill, you get both, you get nothing. I don't see any road by which you only get the reconciliation bill. I feel like Manchin and Sinema would definitely kill it if they weren't getting the bipartisan one, which seems to be the only thing that they want. That said, I don't think that they necessarily care all that much if we get anything. And so I do not rule out the possibility that nothing happens, because I do not believe that many of these centrist senators really give a damn if they go into the winter, if they go into the midterms having accomplished nothing. Now, the issue is that on the other side, the progressives, with their figurehead in this case being AOC, say we too are willing to have nothing. We will kill this whole thing if we don't get the reconciliation bill. The thing is, I don't think that they don't care if nothing gets done. I don't think that this is equal. I don't think that there's perfectly symmetrical warfare here. I believe that those progressives would really prefer to get a lot, but I think that they would hate to get nothing. And so I think that there is a chance that we get nothing. I think it's more likely that they will be willing to allow the reconciliation process to go through, but be stripped down to some extent. And I don't know exactly how much. I don't know if you lose 10%. I don't know if you lose 60%. But I think that if they did strip half or more out of that, which might well be what Sinema and Manchin require, I've seen the promises from the progressives, but I don't know that they would be willing to kill all of that, knowing the damage that would be done. Even bearing in mind the fact that in the bipartisan bill, quite a bit of what is there is pretty bad. Privatization of what is now public land and public goods and public services, those sorts of things. Are they wrong? If that were to happen, would they be wrong to allow a stripped down reconciliation bill? I think that is more complicated than most will be willing to acknowledge. Ambiguity and nuance is not popular because it's not rewarded, but there would, in theory, in a stripped down bill, be quite a bit that is good. Now, I would love for them to be willing to tank the whole thing to see if maybe Sinema and Manchin would blink. But again, I don't know that they would, because I don't think that they fundamentally care about any of this. So now, with all of that, I don't know, Yasmin, what do you think? Do you think that the progressives are likely to follow through if the reconciliation bill gets stripped down a whole bunch? Would they tank the whole thing?
I would like to think that, yeah, similar to what you said, that they wouldn't let it be an all or nothing thing, right? I think ultimately at the end of the day, I believe that AOC cares about her constituents and the American people. Ultimately, in her heart, whatever. I know that's a weird thing to say about a politician in general, but I do think that she actually does care about people. This does get into more about just playing politics, playing the game. I don't know if that's what the progressives and the Democrats are attempting to do. I don't know if they'll be good at it. The Republicans historically, especially in recent years, are better at playing the game of politics because they've had to be, because their stances are not popular, because the things that they want don't benefit the American people. So they kind of have to frame things in a way that they trick people, and they have to work with the systems to find loopholes here and there because they don't have the public support for it. It's also frustrating that, two senators have so much sway over all of this. Two Democratic senators who are just being annoying because they're getting paid to be that, It's so much bigger than two senators, two people in government. It shouldn't be this way. I don't know what the solution is besides like reworking all of our government structures, but this is the system that we have, and this is the one that we have to work with. The Republicans have always understood that. The Democrats, I think, are starting to get that now. But whenever you have such a big bill like this too, it's going to be complicated. It's going to be really hard to get it passed. And if so, are the compromises going to be worth it? Or what concessions are people willing to make? And are those things that maybe can be addressed further down the line in smaller bills? We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, a lot of this is counting on the fact that the hope that Nancy Pelosi will actually manage the timeline in a way that allows both to be passed simultaneously. She might not. She might go with how the senators would prefer that it get done. Now, if she were to do that, that would then, one expects, be the trigger that would cause the progressives to turn against it. If it's now divorced and they have to rely on hopes or assurances, then they would, based on what they've said before, have to tank the bipartisan one. So we'll see. And look, the stakes could not be higher, both for what will be included in here, but also the fact that it is likely that if anything is going to be done on climate, this is the only place that it's going to be done. If you're an international viewer, you may not understand why you only get 1 year out of 4 to get something done in a presidency. And you're right, it's stupid. But Biden doesn't seem like he's gonna, what is he gonna fight more in his second or third year than he did in his first? I kind of doubt it. So that's the thing. Look, if you believe that tactically or whatever, holding strong on that thing is important, that's totally fine. I get that. And the stakes are super high. But understand, nothing being done is not like, this is not just, hey, it's a story we talked about. It is also probably the only opportunity. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be, but it probably will be. So let's just bear that in mind. Like, these costs are not philosophical. This is not just a fun thing. We're not rooting for sports. We're not discussing the most recent episode of Ted Lasso. This is real, obviously. So follow the tactic if you want, but let's bear in mind what the costs are, and the costs are as significant as they can be in politics. So anyway, any final thoughts, Yasmin?
No. Can I just say no? Okay. It's my final thoughts are basically just it's frustrating that all of this is the way that it is. Yeah, it's frustrating that it is the way that it is, that the system is what it is. And we just got that recent climate report that we're already worse than we should have been at this point. And coming back from that is gonna be the stakes are so high. It's what you said, the stakes are incredibly high, and it's very scary to think what will happen if something like this doesn't get passed and if real changes don't start to happen. Even if that means that the real people, the American people especially, have to be inconvenienced in some ways.
Yeah.
In the long, we have to think about the long term.
Yeah, and man, there's so much about the system that's so frustrating. Like, knowing that, so if nothing gets done, presumably one would expect that the Democrats are going to be destroyed in the midterms, and probably rightfully so. If they got, if they held office, they didn't accomplish anything. And so like, oh, well then Democrats would learn their lesson. Nope, no, they will not. That's the thing. The consequences that seem rational very rarely actually manifest in politics, which is one of the most frustrating parts about it. Mm-hmm. Now that said, there's a lot of other frustrating stuff going on. So why don't we turn to, we've been talking about the issues with America, but let's focus on the issues with Yasmin's home state. What the hell is up with Texas? We're gonna talk about it. How is it going? The pandemic in Texas right now? Well, I will take you back first to March 2nd of this year, where Governor Abbott was very excited to announce that he was lifting the mask mandate and opening Texas 100%. And why? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you might do that. You might do that because you think that the science says it's safe, the CDC's okay with it. But then the fact that you did that announcement to the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce implies to me that the CDC is probably not the foremost thing on your mind. It's probably about getting back to literal business as usual. So that was a few months ago. How are they doing? Well, dozens of Texas hospitals are now out of ICU beds as COVID-19 cases again overwhelm the state's capacity. Over a third of adult patients in North Texas in all their hospitals are there specifically for COVID, and even children's hospitals are at 97% capacity. Austin, where I lived and went to grad school, had at one point a couple days ago 6 open beds in its ICU, not for COVID, for anything, and that was a couple days ago. So that has left Texas in a position where it needs to do something, but we know a few things they do not want to do. What they will do, though, is try to get other people to help them. The Texas Department of State Health Services will be utilizing staffing agencies to provide medical personnel from out of state to Texas Health State care facilities to assist in COVID-19 operations. The governor has also sent a letter to the Texas Hospital Association asking hospitals to voluntarily postpone elective medical procedures for which a delay will not result in loss of life or the deterioration of a patient's condition, in order to increase hospital capacity for COVID-10 patients. So we wrote that out as a graphic, but it was an announcement from the office of the Texas governor exactly like that first one. So in March, it's, hey, everybody get out there and have fun. You don't need to take care, you don't need to worry about any of this. Now it's, dear God, are there any doctors in other states that can come to save us? So that's how it started. Now this is how it's going. Yasmin, answer for your state.
I can't. How can I? There's always a joke in Texas. We're always making fun of Florida, and lately it's like I've been talking to my Florida friends. I was like, I can't even say anything to you guys anymore because of what's going on here. I actually just got back from Austin. I was there over the weekend, and I spoke to someone who, I don't want to say too much, but she's a doctor, right? And she was the one who was telling me all about how bad it actually is within their Austin hospital system and the neighboring cities. And in Houston, it's also very bad. In 2020, during the first big spike of COVID, a lot of the Texas Children's Hospital and other children's hospitals and things like that, they were using their beds and things like that to help treat some of these COVID patients. And now they can't even do that because those beds are filled with kids. And there's, I lost my train of thought, but there's a lot going on there. And also the ER, that's what it was. The ER, they're checking people in and they're keeping them in an ER. Emergency rooms are supposed to be a place where you go in and you're diagnosed, and then either you're admitted into the big hospital or you get sent home. But now people are staying in the hospitals. There's a crazy nursing and even doctor shortage that's happening now, and you can't blame people for being burned out and quitting their jobs. Like they would rather be unemployed, this thing that they spent years of their lives studying to do, rather than deal with the stress and the dangers of going to work in these hospital systems. As far as Greg Abbott, back in March 2020, when he decided to reopen the state or my timeline might be off, but he reopened the state within about like 2 months of it shutting down, of quarantining, locking up. Yeah, something like that. And but it was way premature, and everybody was like, what is the long-term goal here? What do you think is going to happen? And now we're asking for people from other states to come, and it's like, why would they come? We did this to ourselves. Not that we and look, but
I'm sure many will. But now they're going to be even more stressed. It's going to weaken the surrounding states' ability to deal with COVID. It's going to potentially expose those healthcare workers to increased risk of getting COVID now, and totally unnecessarily. Like Texas does not need to be as hard hit. And by the way, like I'm joking a little bit because I think Abbott is an absolute ghoul. He's a monster. But I love Texas. I don't want Texas. I lived in Texas for like 5 or 6 years. I don't want Texas to be hit this way. I don't want any state to be hit this way. And it didn't need to. Abbott didn't need to prematurely open. He didn't need to, at a state level, ban mask mandates and ban vaccine passports and ban all this other stuff that they weren't even doing, but just to vice signal to his base that he doesn't give a damn about COVID or anything that happens. Now, it's not to say that in this most recent announcement, there's nothing that's good or might be helpful. Abbott instructed state agencies to open more COVID-19 antibody infusion centers across the state to treat COVID-19 patients with therapeutic drugs, and directed state agencies to increase vaccination availability across the state. But he's still a Republican and he still desperately wants to be president someday. So he's not going to personally encourage people to get vaccinated. He's certainly not going to require it for literally anything. So it'll be available, that's good. I got news for you though. It's been available for months and months and months. You need to encourage the knuckleheads that you have beaten into submission with your misinformation to actually go and get it. And time is rapidly running out, I fear. I want you to look at this graphic summing up recent trends in cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. So cases have more than doubled in the past 2 weeks. Hospitalizations have exactly doubled in the past 2 weeks. Deaths have also doubled. They are thankfully still low, but we also know that they tend to lag those two other metrics. So it is possible that the 58 deaths we experienced 2 days ago in Texas could be 100 or 200 or 300 in a few more weeks. I hope not. I hope that the fact that vaccinations tend to be overrepresented in those who are most at risk. But that said, we could be entering into a dark period, not just nationally, but specifically in places like Texas. And so I hope if you're there, you get vaccinated, you stay safe. Yasmin, I hope that you're keeping safe while you're there, because you might be surrounded by a lot of people that are not.
No, I am, and I know that I am. So I don't go out very much. But it's what you were saying whenever you're reading about what Abbott's doing. The vaccine availability is not the issue. There's never been, like, we have vaccines. We have signs everywhere. People say, "Oh, we have vaccines," at drugstores, at local ERs, and things like that. That's not the problem. It's the messaging. It's the base. It's the people who just won't do. On top of that, the thing about Texas, I love this place, I do. And in the last year, especially, it has been very difficult just to live here and not to just feel not ashamed, but just like almost embarrassed. Like, yeah, I live here. Yeah, I like it, but I'm not like that, and it's weird because you kind of have to qualify your existence as a Texan now, because whenever anybody hears about Texas, it's like, oh, you guys are crazy. And they're like, yeah, but it's not our fault. And then the bigger issue is obviously that all of this was so preventable and he did nothing. He sat there and did nothing. He denied things. He wasn't helpful. He thwarted efforts from cities and counties to actually do something for their people, which is something that we're seeing now with the school districts in all the major cities and, well, the three biggest cities in Texas. You have the Austin ISD, Dallas ISD, and Houston ISD all bucking these mandates from the governor, which is crazy, a little unprecedented, but it's good. It's what needs to happen.
If it's necessary,
and these cities are the ones who are bearing the burden of all these sick people,
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure they're gonna be attacked viciously, if not by Abbott, certainly by the base, but they feel that it is necessary to save as many lives as they can. Okay, now that said, let's move to a slightly different angle on this. As hard hit as Texas is by COVID, you would expect that if you were elected representative there, you would at least want to pretend like you were gonna do something. Ted Cruz is not that sort of politician. He is doing something, but it hardly seems designed to save Texan lives. Take a look at this.
My views were very simple. There should be no mandates, zero concerning COVID. That means no mask mandates, regardless of your vaccination status. That means no vaccine mandates. That means no vaccine passports. And I've introduced legislation, a bill to ban vaccine passports. This week I'm introducing a bill to ban vaccine mandates. And this week I'm introducing a bill to end mask mandates.
He's got lots of bills, just tons of bills. Soon he'll have a bill for every Texan who needlessly dies of COVID in his state on a daily basis. He doesn't care about those. He's not even pretending to care about those in this interview, Yasmin, but he does want to reassure the Republican base that he is going to protect their so-called freedom to get sick and die in ever increasing numbers.
It's so nice to see my senator working so hard on all these stupid, pointless, and destructive bills. At least he's doing something. Good to know how Ted Cruz spends his time, and it's on this stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Banning masks don't hurt anyone, right? Why would you ban it? Why would you say you can't wear a mask? If I want to wear a mask, then why isn't that my choice? It's
well, I think he's just talking about banning mask mandates, but of course some Republicans have been getting in people's faces and attacking them for wearing masks.
I think I was thinking there's some pastors who are banning masks in their churches and things like that too.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of separate, but adjacent. But then also everything about like the vaccine passports and you can't mandate a vaccine, they're acting like this is new. Every time you have to go to school, you have to make sure you're up on your vaccines every school year, right? My brothers and I are very close in age. My parents used to walk all of us into the doctor's office and get our shots. It was normal. It is normal. It's still normal. Nothing is new about this. So I don't understand. Vaccine passports also, you can't travel to certain places without getting certain vaccines either. None of this is new. It's all protocol.
Exactly. No, it's just and it's all just vice signaling. That he is not worried about people getting sick or people dying. He is worried about coming out of this period and having the Republicans think that he was with the commies during that time. That's what he's worried about. Now, very briefly, I do want to show you a little bit of what Sean Hannity had to say during this section. He wants to at least pretend as if he's a bit more worried about people dying, but we will see what he is willing to say and what he's not in this section.
I've seen the worst of this. I know people right now who have loved ones on ventilators. I've seen people die. I'm telling everyone, take it seriously. You have to take into account your unique medical history, your current medical condition. I urge everybody, research. If you own a telephone, you can do a lot of research on your own phone. Then, in consultation with your doctor, doctors, or other medical professionals, you've got to make the decision. Everybody knows about masks, social distancing, 3 vaccines. I'm not a doctor, Senator. I'm not going to play one on radio and TV. I'm not qualified.
Okay, so I will avoid totally relitigating that has never stopped him or other Fox hosts from encouraging people to get guns or do anything else in their life. This belief that they need to be an expert before they provide advice. They provide advice in literally everything, but also at a time when so many people are getting sick, flooding hospitals and dying, What we do not need, and he is providing advice, by the way, just not advice to get vaccinated. His advice is you should get your phone and do a whole bunch of independent research. We will never help you. We're never gonna have any of the people on who made the vaccine. We're not gonna have the head of the CDC. We're not gonna answer any of your questions. You go on Reddit or whatever and spend countless hours racking your brain about whether you should get it. Go meet with your doctor, other doctors, other healthcare professionals. You should be having your own institute where you spend week after week just, should I do it? Should I get it? No, that is not what we need right now. Okay, it has been months and months of this thing. It is safe. That is what we know, and you need to get it now. Okay, if you get sick with COVID now and you die, as so many people are, it doesn't help at all that 6 months from now you might have come to the conclusion that you should get vaccinated. Time actually does matter, and he is scared there. Okay, he's not scared of people getting sick or dying. He's scared again of being perceived to have been pro-vaccine in a time when that is not safe for right-wingers. He knows that he will be attacked and he will be criticized if he comes across as encouraging people to get vaccinated, and that is clearly his biggest fear there. Any final thoughts, Yasmin?
It's frustrating whenever so much of this entire conversation is nothing about actual vaccines and about actual health and public health and all the implications that come along with it. It's been so politicized. People accuse the left of politicizing it, which is hilarious to me. Yeah. It makes no sense. But I don't know if that's just projection or gaslighting or whatever you want to call it. But people just need to understand what the actual issue is and not get sidetracked by all this rhetoric and all these opinion pieces and whatever, and on Fox News, they change their mind overnight and they act like no one will notice. Like whatever they said the day before didn't count. It does count, it does matter, and people have died because of what they said yesterday, regardless of what they're saying today. It's good that they switched their messaging. It's very late though. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that the damage wasn't already done.
Yeah. I'm gonna end with one more quote from Ted Cruz. He said in that interview, "In a time of crisis, people's character is revealed." I do believe that. I think that people's characters are revealed. I think of politicians, I think of pundits on TV, of regular people. Our character is revealed. I'm perfectly comfortable with my character when it comes to this pandemic. I will ask to all the right wingers watching this, do you believe that you will look back, that others will look back on your actions and statements and believe that your character was all that it could have been? Okay, with that, we're gonna take our second break. When we come back, more news, so stick around. Hello, everybody, welcome back. I saw some conversation in the chat, no word on whether Cruz was broadcasting from Texas, DC or Mexico, we're not sure. Let's see, Mark Saunders says, Houston has the world's largest medical center, yet they sent via helicopter an 11-month-old girl to Temple, Texas, 150 miles due to lack of pediatric ICU beds. Yeah, we sort of implied, but I guess we didn't really get into. The issue with the fact that every bed is filled up with COVID isn't just that there's no room for COVID patients, it's that other illnesses and injuries do not suddenly take a few months off when a wave hits. There's other things that are hurting people and killing people, and now we are less capable of dealing with it. Anyway, Samantha says, had a baby yesterday. Her name is Alexandria. She is going to be Conqueror Dragon. This is her first TDR of many. Thank you for everything you guys do. To Samantha, congratulations. To Alexandria, I hope that you're paying attention. You will be quizzed after this episode. But anyway, that is awesome. Glad to hear it. Great name, I like it. Forbesilla says, John, I'm not okay with this. I like being able to have a small chat room and chat with my TDR dragons. You just made my day sad. I'm sorry, it's not up to me. I apologize. I have no idea who it even is up to. And maybe it'll come back at some point. I just read the thing that's put in my document. I am like the anchorman in that way. Anyway, Nicole Smith says, Abbott signed anti-mandate order, no social distancing, no capacity restrictions, no masks, no vax requirements. Public schools cannot require anything. Yeah. But now he's taking it super not serious. Anyway. Okay, Bernard the Kiwi Dragon says, I feel for you, Yasmin. Whenever something terrible happens in the US, it's either Texas or Florida 9 out of 10 times. I wouldn't stuff Cruz inside a Tauntaun if we were stranded on Hoth. That's pretty good, I like that. Yeah, I mean, look, bad stuff happens in other places. it's not like the Dakotas were great when it came to COVID, and certainly Alabama, Louisiana, Missouri are hard hit by COVID right now. Hey, and not even just in the pandemic. I mean, LA has decided that it would like to be known as the place where movies used to be made and where we demonize the homeless. That's our identity as a city now. Lisa Burdick says, the NBA finals here, Milwaukee must have canceled COVID here. Oh wait, we spiked again. Glad I got vaccinated. Yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen to events. Like I'm supposed to go in less than a month to Gen Con. And I don't know how the COVID cases are going there. Obviously I'm vaccinated, I wear a mask and everything, but yeah, things are getting rough. Anyway, over in Twitch, the only Dragon Allegra. Hey, Allegra's one of the really nice people in our community. Said subscribe for 13 months and says John is the best. I agree with you. Couldn't agree more. Naughty Grandma subscribed for 8 months and has been subbed almost as long as a baby takes. Well, in fact we've had babies actually in that time. Apparently, the Conqueror Dragons. Crump the THC Dragon gifted 5 tier 1 subs. It's very nice of you, Crump. Thank you so much. Okay, Mother Effin' Woman Dragon gifted a sub as well. Recovering Pagan gifted 5. Thank you to both of you. Riesel subscribed for 8 months. This is 8 months of Bezos bucks. When are we getting a Tiamat Dragon report shirt? We just got purple. We're gonna take it slow, but maybe in a month or so, maybe we can get a multi-headed dragon. That'd be exciting. Snake Anthony gifted a tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. Twitch is so gifty today. Wasabi Dragon gifted 4, so nice of you. Vivi Greeley subscribed for 9 months. Says, can I get a happy birthday for our TYT sub baby? Happy birthday, you in fact can. Okay, a little bit more news to close out the first hour after this. I couldn't hear that first. Anyway, hello everybody. Hey, we still got some more show. I'm John Iadarola. Yasmin is here. Everybody, we always plug at the end of the show. Let's not wait. Yasmin, where can people watch the second season of your show?
So it's a podcast, you can listen to it. If you find me on Instagram, that's an easy way to find me. It's YAZZZZZK, 5 Z's in there. The podcast is called Global Thread. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can check out the website, globalthread.org. And we just launched season 2, which I mentioned earlier, and I'm very excited. This is gonna be a good season. We talked about Taiwan and China on yesterday's episode, and upcoming we're gonna talk about Belarus, and I have a few others, but it's always changing depending on what's in the news at the time, what's relevant. It's a lot of fun. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. I try to break it down for you, some things that you are kind of glossed over in the news stories just because there's no time for it. Yeah. Hopefully that's the reason why they're glossing over certain things, but it's all available.
For me, it's mostly ignorance. But I do appreciate that. That's awesome. Everyone go take a listen to the show. TDR is still in its first season. We should probably end this season at some point. We really do need to eventually put a cap on this thing. Anyway, but that's very exciting. I'm glad that it's been working out so well. And everyone should go take a look. We occasionally will dabble in things like that, but obviously we don't have the level of expertise and knowledge that Yasmin does. So definitely go take a look at that. Now that said, we have time for one more story in this. I know, Marissa, I see the clocks. They're not in my favor. So let's jump into this last story.
Do you think that you should resign for misleading people about
Identify yourself after the question.
Jackie Alamany from the Washington Post.
Okay, no, I think that's absurd. I have not misled anyone. I've not put out misinformation. So no, that I would not even consider it.
Fact check, she has actually multiple times. That is not a new video, by the way. That video is back from March when Marjorie Greene was briefly suspended for spreading COVID pandemic related misinformation. Well, she's been suspended a couple times since then. She's in fact on the razor's edge of being permanently suspended from Twitter, at least according to the way they say they do things. So she has now been suspended for a week for posting COVID misinformation. It's one violation away from a permanent ban. So you might recall, I think it was about a week or two ago, she was suspended for 12 hours, I think. Well, now it's up to a week. So what is the actual thing that she said that caused this most recent suspension? She tweeted, the FDA should not approve the COVID vaccines. There are too many reports of infection and spread of hashtag COVID-19 among vaccinated people. These vaccines are failing and do not reduce the spread of the virus, and neither do masks. Vaccine mandates and passports violate individual freedoms. So that is obviously misinformation. To say, like, you could be hyperbolic and say, man, I support vaccination, but I wish the level of protection was a bit higher. You cannot say they're failing, they don't reduce the spread of the virus, and neither do masks when they both 100% do. So that's misinformation. So we'll get into the consequences, like the long term. But Yasmin, what do you think about this? A week suspension, does it make sense? Do you think that she's eventually gonna be permanently banned? How do you think this is gonna play out?
I don't think there is any way that she will not say something like that again. It really just depends on whether or not Twitter will follow through on what they said they're going to do. It seems like they have been so far. The misinformation is staggering. They don't really feel the need to fact check themselves, and they know that their base won't either. So they can say whatever they want. It can be completely untrue. It can be completely, even if they get 1 or 2 points wrong, there's never any accountability for any of it. So you can't just let people say things like that without there being consequences, even if that is, just within her party, just people saying, hey, Marjorie, that's not the case. You can't tell people that. I don't know why something so basic is called into question so often. I don't know why that's controversial to say that you can't say things that are untrue to the public as a representative of said public. But that's what we're dealing with here. And unfortunately, it detracts and distracts from a lot of the things that actually do matter. Like, are the vaccines actually effective? Yes, they are. Do masks actually work? Yes, they do. Does it help reduce the spread? Yes, it does. Are we in this situation with the Delta variant because people refuse to get vaccinated and because people refuse to wear masks and social distance? Yes, we are.
Yeah, you're right. And by the way, the standard isn't even as high as you were saying. Like, they can lie about all sorts of things. There's a few areas that are like directly tied to people dying that right now, briefly, we're not letting you lie about so much. And like you can get away with so much exaggeration and misinformation. She is like seemingly specifically trying to run afoul of this. And that is possibly what she's doing. Is it possible that her being permanently banned is more valuable to her brand than being on Twitter? She's not that great on Twitter anyway. I wouldn't rule it out. So we'll see. One more suspension and supposedly she's permanently banned. I would not say that is definitely going to happen even if she spreads it, but we will be watching to see. For now, we'll see if she treads lightly. I wouldn't expect it. That said, that is it for our linear first hour. Thank you everybody for being here. If you're watching on Twitch, you're watching on YouTube, we do have another half hour of show. So we're gonna take a short break. We'll be back soon with a lot more. Welcome back, everyone. It's John and Yasmin. We got a little bit more news for you. By the way, I am seeing people talking about the breaking news of the shooting in Texas, actually, South Padre Island. The details are just coming out. It's too early for us to talk about it. Doesn't look good. I'll say that based on what I'm seeing. People are saying that it's related to a rent dispute. It is possible that will end up being true. Sometimes the early details that come out during these shootings end up not being true. So I would have a grain of salt on that, but if possible, regardless, it's obviously disturbing. We'll be taking a look at that. A big day for breaking news, by the way. That said, before we jump back into the news, I did want to let you know about a few things that are going on. Let's see, did you know that after this show, in about 28 minutes, Indisputable will be happening with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Adrienne Lawrence will be co-hosting, as she always does on Tuesdays. Pastor Stephen Broden will be on for a debate, so that sounds like fun. You're definitely gonna want to take a look at that. Also, after Indisputable, deep dive. So head on over to twitch.tv/TYT, and you can dive deep with Jordan Newell, see what's going on there. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, but youtube.com/indisputable_TYT for Indisputable. And subscribe. That way you won't need me to remind you in the future. But anyway, another reminder in case you're tuning in late, the multicast of the Young Turks on the Damage Report will be ending starting next Monday. So if you've become accustomed to watching the Young Turks live show at youtube.com/the Damage Report, that will no longer be an option starting Monday, but you can go to youtube.com/the Young Turks. And don't worry, the mods will be doing their best to take control of the troll hordes. And we'll try to produce the best chatting environment for you there. And Twitch is also obviously available for the Young Turks as well. So that said, let's see what's going on in the chat. Jeffrey Ritchie says, how do I change my handle to Jeff Dragon? That is a great question. I hope that people are able to help you in the chat. I actually have no idea, but it definitely is possible. People change it from time to time. I hope that they're able to help you. Let's see. Sojourns in Twitch said Abbott seemingly made the call to abolish masks because he was trying to move away from the people looking into the reason why almost all of Texas shut down from the freeze. Yeah, it's possible it was politically convenient. He didn't want them focusing on that and the lack of action in that area. Okay, Ukami subscribed for 11 months, says, dang, been hanging out with you for almost a year. Time flies during a pandemic. Yeah, in one way. In another way, I feel like we've always been in the pandemic. I feel like there was no time before it, in a way. But thank you for being a part of this. Peace, love, Dave subscribed for 9 months, says TDR is my favorite way to start the day, and then put the purple emoji. So thanks for that. By the way, we're getting word that Nina Turner is making an announcement mid-September. That's exciting. I don't know what that might be in reference to, but definitely exciting. We'll have to see. Now that said, Yasmin, you ready to do some more news?
I am ready to do some more news.
Thank you. I am too. Oh, really fast though. I'm seeing some question about the Damage Report will still be live streaming at the Damage Report. It's just that the Young Turks will no longer be streaming simultaneously on both the Young Turks and the Damage Report. So no, you can still watch our show. We're not going anywhere. Season 1 continues. Anyway, okay, with that, let's
never ending season 1.
No, it's never ending. Okay, it's 500 episodes actually. We're getting close. Okay, let's jump back into this. Although Jeffrey Epstein is now dead, some of those who allegedly helped participate in his crimes are still around and facing accusations, and Prince Andrew is now one of those. Virginia Roberts Giuffre, an alleged victim of the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, on Monday filed a lawsuit against the prince in federal court in New York. She accused the British royal of sexually abusing her at Epstein's mansion in Manhattan and at other locations back in 2001 when she was under the age of 18, according to court records. Prince Andrew has denied having sex with her. Now, her attorney says if she doesn't do it now, she would be allowing him to escape any accountability for his actions. And Virginia is committed to trying to avoid situations where rich and powerful people escape any accountability for their actions. So just to gloss over a little bit, there are statutes of limitations considerations. They generally are extended when the crimes were done when someone was underage. But that said, they're still trying to make sure that during the window that is available, that this can be investigated. So let's talk a little bit about the lawsuit. It says 20 years ago, Prince Andrew's wealth, power, position, and connections enabled him to abuse a frightened, vulnerable child with no one there to protect her. It is long past the time for him to be held accountable. And back in 2019, He said that he never had sex with Virginia Giuffre, saying it didn't happen. He said he had no recollection of ever meeting her and told an interviewer that there are a number of things that are wrong with her account. That said, there is this picture available with her and with Prince Andrew back in 2001 where, and I remember people talking about this when it came out, it's incredibly disturbing because she not only looks like she might be his daughter there, she looks like she might be his particularly young daughter there. But that is allegedly at one of these meetings involved in the lawsuit. So, Yasmin, what do you make of this?
I commend Virginia for sticking to her guns in the name of justice. I think that's something that a lot of, especially women, but I'm sure a lot of people, men and women and the other involved, it's one of those things where you kind of get used to seeing really terrible things happen to innocent people, and then nothing happens to the people who offended them or assaulted them, or in this case, had sex with them underage, et cetera, whatever else goes on in Epstein Island. I wasn't there, I wouldn't know. But the statute of limitations is particularly frustrating. I get why it's a thing that we have in place, but in this particular case, it's indicative of a much bigger problem that needs to be addressed and cannot be allowed to be swept under the rug, which is what's been happening this entire time. We have all these big exposés that come out about these big sex crime rings, and then nothing really comes from it beyond that. It causes big stir in the media. All of the people are upset about it on whatever side of the aisle you sit on, and then nothing comes from it. Because the powers that be, the people at the top, whoever it is who are protecting these people, are successful in doing so. It feels very corrupt. It probably is. I don't want to go into any conspiracy theories, but everyone's in cahoots with everyone. And it's hard for a regular average person who has been victimized to even have a voice or have any kind of representation whenever it comes to something like that. And then to have a chance at getting justice seen through.
Yeah, look, I don't think that implying that there's corruption is you getting into conspiracy theories. This isn't QAnon. I mean, we know the process with Epstein. It was incredibly corrupt, Yeah. With Prince Andrew, I don't know. I am going into this process in the stance that I assume Virginia Giuffre probably is. He's a prince; he'll be protected. That's what I would imagine their expectation is. I guess you go for the closest approximation of justice that is available to you, which might be miles away in this case, but at least it is being talked about, this experience that she says that she had. And I want to give a little bit of a statement that she provided to ABC News saying, "I'm holding Prince Andrew accountable for what he did to me. The powerful and the rich are not exempt from being held responsible for their actions. I hope that other victims will see that it is possible not to live in silence and fear, but one can reclaim her life by speaking out and demanding justice." She said she feared death or physical injury to herself or another, and other repercussions for disobeying Epstein, Maxwell, and the prince because of their powerful connections, wealth, and authority. And that seems very reasonable. Like a person who has this long string of rapes doesn't seem like you'd be irrational to be afraid that they would disappear someone as well on their private islands with their private planes, with politicians being willing to sweep anything under the rug. That seems like a very reasonable fear there. So, any other thoughts, Yasmin?
Yeah, this is just indicative of something that so many victims are familiar with. How many women have been, or men and women who have been accused or have been victimized by sexual assailants, and they don't say anything because nothing will come from it. And then at worst, or sometimes they're the ones who are bearing the brunt of coming forward. They're the ones who suffer consequences for coming forward and for challenging these authority figures. Whenever somebody is victimized by somebody more powerful than them, a lot of times they don't want to come forward because whatever they say is going to get misconstrued in the media. They're going to be picked apart in the media. People are going to call them liars. People are going to diminish their experiences and tell them that what actually happened wasn't what you experienced. You're overreacting, all these things. Sometimes people lose relationships, they lose jobs over things like that. It is a strong move to come out against somebody like Prince Andrew and the whole Epstein, cohort, let's call it, all those people, everyone who's involved with this, and the royal family. That's a big deal. Prince Andrew has been protected largely throughout this entire scandal, and it would be nice to see that not happen anymore.
I agree. Okay, we'll end there. We're gonna turn to something very different in a second, but first I did want to welcome Mary Butcher and Jeffrey Ritchie to Tier 1 YouTube membership. Thank you for being there. Hope you enjoyed the badge and the emojis. It's been a bit since we launched a new emoji. We're gonna have to do that. Let's see if we got a new slot. Maybe we can finally get that rainbow dragon or the purple dragon. Okay, with that, why don't we launch directly into this next video?
Check out his podcast, What the Hell is Going On with Critical Race Theory. It was very good, very informative. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. On the Princeton point here, you and I have discussed it at the college level, this is fair game. Go ahead and do it, right? I mean, I remember 20 years old going to Trier, Germany and trying to find the home of Karl Marx because, 1848, he wrote Mein Kampf. I want to know what it was all about. So that's part of the education in America if you so choose. So that's that. More to come. Green Mile.
Okay, so that's part of the education. Well, unfortunately, the education in America apparently lacking because, Karl Marx did not, of course, write Mein Kampf. I understand you might be confused, except that it was kind of a notable guy that did. I don't know why I need to go do research to educate Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom, but Mein Kampf is a 1925 autobiographical manifesto by Nazi party leader Adolf Hitler. The work describes the process by which Hitler became anti-Semitic and outlines his political ideology and future plans for Germany. Volume 1 was published in 1925, Volume 2 in 1926. Neither were written by Karl Marx, nor were they written in 1848. Now, the Communist Manifesto was written by Karl Marx in 1948. But the question, Yasmin, did he just mean the Communist Manifesto and he got the name wrong? Or does he actually think Karl Marx wrote the book Mein Kampf? So did he get the name wrong or did he get the book wrong? Which do you think?
John, it's a toss-up. Who even knows with these people? Who knows? My initial reaction was, did he misspeak? Did he say the wrong thing? It's easy to say the wrong thing when you're on live television, I would imagine.
Yes.
But is he gonna retract it? Is he gonna correct himself? That's what needs to happen. You need to at least educate your viewers that you said that wrong. It was a mistake, fine, that happens, and move on. But this is why Europeans and non-Americans think Americans are so dumb and why everyone makes fun of us in our crappy education systems and the education systems that we're not working to improve and the high cost of education in this country. It's a problem, and we're seeing it now on Fox News play out in real time.
Yeah, it is definitely a problem, regardless of which explanation is true. I assume he has to have meant the Communist Manifesto, because he got the author right, he got the city right, he got the year right. The issue is, and I think I'm really trying to be open-minded to this and play devil's advocate. Like, if you're gonna have a Freudian slip, should it be about Mein Kampf? That seems weird.
No.
Mein Kampf is such a singular book known only for how awful it is of the person who wrote it. How could you think that that's what it was? But anyway, hoping that Bill Hemmer is watching this, I want to provide him a little bit more information about that book to avoid problems like this. Here's an interesting note. Hitler began Mein Kampf while imprisoned following his failed coup in Munich in November 1923 and a trial in February 1924 for high treason, in which he received the very light sentence of 5 years. So it turned out that historically, allowing someone who did a coup to just get off with a slap on the wrist turned out poorly for Germany and the rest of the world. So bear that in mind. But finally, maybe he just slipped, but he didn't catch it. And notably, his co-host Dana Perino, she didn't correct him, although it seems like she noticed it because Steve Morris captured these 2 frames from the video after he said that. Can we go to this? She looked directly at the camera. I feel like she got it. Why wouldn't she correct him? Like, even just to save him, did she like that he made the mistake and that it looked like he was trying to find out more about Mein Kampf? Didn't understand it. I don't know. These are the questions that keep me up late at night.
It is a very strange thing to gloss over and not correct, especially if you know it. I can understand if she didn't notice it at the time. Maybe she was thinking about something else. I don't know. But she looked at the camera directly when she wasn't speaking. I feel like that's quite indicative of the fact that she knew something wasn't quite right. So
yes, yeah. And I know what a lot of people in the chat are probably saying. It's a convenient slip up to make to leave the audience thinking that the guy they think of as the commie wrote the book that the fascist wrote. That's a convenient slip up. Anyway, I don't know exactly why Bill Hemmer made the mistake he did, but someone needs to fix this. Anyway, that said, okay, we've got some time and we've got a story that's at least as bonkers. So let's get into this. Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, has tried to become the cyber guy. He's got a cyber symposium starting now, actually, live now in South Dakota. It's a 3-day conference bringing together cyber guys, his term, not mine, to prove that Donald Trump was robbed and actually secretly won the election. It got off to a bit of a rough start, as you'll see in this video.
This was attacked, the whole technology was attacked. We expected that, but we do have a backup plan. It'll be probably another 5 minutes. And I want all you guys to know that out there, that this is why, because I need to get the word out. We can't even get the word out to the people that are frankspeech.com because they blocked the thing. But this is part of what I'm going to talk about today. This is the cover up. This is the absolute cover up of the worst crime in history. And we're going to talk about all this today. This is, and you're going to see all kinds of things. We're going to educate everybody. We're going to show them we're going to be running. I'll show you over here. You see this data that's running there. That's cyber data from what I've got. Let's see if it's moving. Yeah, it's not rotating yet, but that'll go in an endless stream for days.
Okay, so not the best cyber symposium. Off to a rough start. He's got a loop of data. I think it's just a GIF from the Matrix. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, he says it was attacked and that it's part of the cover up, that they're trying to stop the cyber symposium from happening. I'm gonna guess that they just didn't plug in something, Yasmin. I don't know, is that unfair?
No, it's not. First of all, South Dakota sounds like the worst place to be right now. I would not recommend anyone go to South Dakota right now. Also, aren't there a lot of cyber guys up in North Dakota? Maybe you could have had it there instead. Maybe just get some better cyber guys who don't have an issue. You're not having technical difficulties at your cyber symposium. And then he called it the worst crime in history. Yeah. What? I can't even wrap my head around that. There's a million crimes that are worse than whatever happened, especially considering that this wasn't a thing that happened. It's not real. Exactly. It's not real. That's it.
Yeah, I don't get the cyber guys thing. I don't know what he thinks that means. I look forward to Sea Guy Island coming next year on HBO Max, but I think that his whole concept of hackers and how that all works is basically summed up by the movies that used to have just people like do this on a keyboard really fast, and that was supposed to be like breaking into something. He actually thinks that that's true. But anyway, look, the thing is now going on. There was an issue. I'm reading Eurolino on Twitch said that he got mad at people because they wanted to take a lunch. He said he's not gonna eat, he's not gonna sleep. He's doing the whole 72 hours without stopping. And I know what you're thinking, but technically snorting cocaine is not eating. It is a different form of energy. So anyway, we will see if there is any new actual evidence provided during this. He says that he was given data by unknown individuals back on January 9th that he called packet capture as a technical format for capturing web traffic. He says the data shows that the Chinese Communist Party had interfered in the election results in all 50 states, all of them. And apparently left a bunch of them to go to Biden. I don't know. But anyway, those claims have already been widely debunked. They could actually open him up to legal liability if he actually did have access to some of this data, which he almost certainly does not. But I want you to bear in mind that he is facing his own $1.3 billion lawsuit, based on his constant slander of the company that ran the election. So I don't know, Yasmin, what are your expectations? Is it just a stunt? Will they Did they do this thinking, well, we at least have 1 or 2 bits of data that will get us some headlines or something? Well, what do you think is gonna happen?
Why is Mike Lindell so privy to all this information that nobody else is privy to? That's what I wanna know. Who's he in cahoots with besides Trump? And I can't even get into that. But the thing with somebody like Mike Lindell, like he's already on the line for billions of, like over $1 billion, right? He's already being sued for that. Maybe he's just like, whatever, I can't lose any more money. What's another billion on top of 1 billion? So let's just keep going. Maybe people will give him money. I don't know if they're gonna give him $1 billion, but maybe he's hoping to get something from Trump. But we all know that Trump doesn't really help out his people the way they always think that he will. It's all a mess. I don't know what will come from it. I don't know what he wants to come from it. But I almost get the impression that once they start the grift, they have no choice but to continue the grift because they don't know how to stop it. There's no way out. There's no way that he could just come back and say, actually, I was wrong. Sorry, guys. I'll go back to making my pillows.
Yeah, well, and we'll get into one of the ways he's not admitting he's wrong. I guess it ends when no one shows up to your event anymore or nobody, signs on for your cyber symposium. But as long as he can get money, I guess he will. Yeah, $1.3 billion. Look, to your question about why he's privy to it, I don't know. One of the reasons we talk about him is I don't understand why he was the guy that was elevated by the right. Like, it could have been some guy that sells duvets or the ShamWow guy. Why him in particular? It just doesn't make any sense. But that said, I want to use the last few minutes that we have to get into one area. Mike Lindell will never cop to the fact that we are like entering into the period that supposedly is supposed to end with Trump president once again. Like he's kind of trying to shift the goalposts. Some are more transparent in it, but a lot of people have made the sorts of claims that Mike Lindell has, and clearly it's not coming true. I'm not willing to bet on a lot, but I am willing to bet that in 2 weeks Donald Trump will not be president. That said, there are a lot of people who believe that he will be. Let's go to some of those who are trying to spread this misinformation. So first of all, Jeff Jansen is a staunch supporter of former President Donald Trump, co-founder of the Global Fire Ministries International in Tennessee. Now, he predicted back in March that Trump would be back in office with the support of the military by the end of April. Despite that prophecy failing to come true, he then published videos saying that he was tripling and quadrupling down on his prediction. Well, it didn't happen. So let's go to the pastor as an emblem of these sorts of people. What is he saying now?
God has not forgotten. There are many that are still standing on the premise of what's happening with President Trump. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact that he has already been inaugurated. I guess I can share that there was a general that was March the 4th, 2021. March the 4th, where he was actually sworn in as the 19th president of the new reformed Republic of the United States, going back to 1851, when everything was traded away in our nation. Don't have the time to get into that, but I do want to say this because people get so caught up with, oh, Jeff, you said by spring we'd be dancing in the streets. That's right, I did say by spring we'd be dancing in the streets. I did say that President Trump would be president and is president, and he is president. But you need to understand something as well. We need to understand that just when the word of the Lord comes to a prophet, the prophet speaks the word of the Lord. Things can shift, not the goalpost. People say, well, you're shifting the goalpost. I'm not shifting the goalpost.
No, you're shifting the goalpost. That's what you're doing. Anyway, Yasmin, what do you think? Obviously, you don't buy into this stuff. Are you surprised that so many people do? They believe stuff like that?
No, I'm not. And first of all, did he put that music in the background?
I think he did.
Did he do that? I was like, is that music playing? Where did that come from? That's weird. He also got the year wrong. He said 1851. So this whole March 4th thing comes from this idea that back in 1871, the government became a corporation instead. So everything from that point onward doesn't matter. So it's all wrong. It does matter. The United States is a country, and it's all nonsense.
Yeah, look, if it helps him cope, I guess stop focusing on Biden so much. If Trump is secretly president already, it's
and again, why is he privy to that?
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe he sells pillows online. Unfortunately, Yasmin, that is all the time that we have. I wish we had more time to dissect this, but thank you so much for joining us again. I want to give you an opportunity to let people know where they can listen to your show.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Global Thread. It's available wherever you get your podcasts, or you can check out the website globalthread.org. And my Instagram is at YazK with 5 Z's, YAZZZZZK. There you go.
Thank you. Have a good day, Yasmin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.
Always. And for those of you at home, thank you for watching. The fun doesn't stop here, though. We've got Indisputable coming up with Dr. Rashad Ritchie and Adrian Lawrence. That'll be available at youtube.com/indisputablety in just a few minutes. Deep Dive is up after that. So hold on to your butts. A lot of news coming. But until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
Yep, you know what it is. Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. Good to be with you. We got a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day with me, none other than our dear sister, author and attorney, TYT contributor, Adrian Lawrence, will break down news of the day. Let me start with my top story. Governor Cuomo will resign. Here's some video.
This situation, by its current trajectory, will generate months of political and legal controversy. That is what is going to happen. That is how the political wind is blowing. It will consume government. It will cost taxpayers millions of dollars. It will brutalize people. And wasting energy on distractions is the last thing that state government should be doing. And I cannot be the cause of that. New York tough means New York loving. And I love New York. And I love you. And everything I have ever done has been motivated by that love. And I would never want to be unhelpful in any way. And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do. Because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me, it's about we.
Man, that cat is slippery when wet. Governor Cuomo set to resign, ladies and gentlemen. And in his resignation speech, he does not take responsibility for anything that he has done. He does not apologize to the women he has violated. And let me tell you why this is actually a good thing for the left, okay? And I know there are a lot of people who like Cuomo and you like his politics, and I get that. Let me tell you why it's a good thing that this is happening. You cannot be the party of ideals. You cannot be the party of transparency. You cannot proclaim to be the party that's adversarial to the party that supports Trump and supports Matt Gaetz. And then when you have something like this happen, you refuse to do the right thing, even when it's against someone that you may not want to do it to. It's a good thing. Cuomo needs to sit down. According to the resignation, this will take effect in 14 days. So he will remain in office for 14 days. The lieutenant governor will take over the duties. She will become the first woman to hold that post as governor. Adrian Lawrence, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, first of all, I don't necessarily know why he needs 2 weeks. This isn't like you're leaving a job at CVS. I do not need 2 weeks notice. Also, if it takes 2 weeks for you to transition from your job as a governor, it might say that, hey, you weren't that good of a governor after all. But when we also speak of his work as a governor, we have to remember that the FBI is still investigating him right now because he's been accused of deliberately obstructing the full scope of the nursing home deaths in New York. In addition to now being under investigation for sexual assault in New York of groping and grabbing one of his former subordinates. So when it comes to Andrew Cuomo and the fact that he is leaving governor, it's a good thing, but at the same time, he is leaving under pressure of the fact that he violated allegedly a number of laws. And we also do have to remember as well when it comes to party lines that Republicans, they don't dominate the field when it comes to corruption, sexual harassment. It is everywhere. It does not have an issue with crossing party lines at all. And it is good for the Democratic Party to no longer have Cuomo in its stead. And so that's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, well said. We'll continue to bring you more as that story develops. I'm sure there will be more to come. Next story. This is really interesting. A parent files a complaint against a school principal because this school principal literally separated black students from white students and only had white teachers teaching white students and black teachers teaching black students. I kid you not. The parent said it was just disbelief. An Atlanta mom filed a federal complaint against her daughter's Atlanta elementary school after she learned the school was separating students based on race. In the discrimination complaint filed with the US Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, parent Kyla Posey claims the principal at Mary Lynn Elementary School, a K-5 school in the Atlanta public school system, put a segregation policy in place because she thought it was best for all students. The principal's name is Sharon Briscoe. Let's put up a picture of Principal Briscoe. That's the principal at the center of this allegation. It gets deeper. She, Posey, that's the parent, contacted Briscoe, the principal, to request that her daughter be placed in a specific classroom with a certain teacher. Briscoe, the principal, replied by saying that would not work because the teacher's classroom wasn't for black students, Posey claims. Here's the parent. Here's Miss Posey, okay? You see that look on her face? That would be the exact look on my face if a school teacher said that about my child. She said, that's not one of the black classes. And I immediately said, what does that mean? I was confused. I asked for more clarification. I was like, we have those in the school? And she proceeded to say, yes, I have decided that I'm going to place all of the black students in 2 classes. Huh? Now, obviously, this is a violation of so many rules and regulations, not only of the federal government, but internally as it relates to policy in the Atlanta public school system. The Atlanta public schools does not condone the assigning of students to classrooms based on race. The district conducted a review of the allegations. Appropriate actions were taken to address the issue, and the matter was closed. We do not know exactly what happened. We do not know what the conclusion was because the school system as a policy will not tell us what the action was against the principal. According to another report, the US Department of Education is also currently investigating this. So what do you have here, ladies and gentlemen? You literally have a school principal who created a policy. The policy was to separate black students and white students. This policy was well known not only by school teachers who engaged in it, but also other administrators, because there's a recording that's out there right now of one of the school administrators saying, yes, this is a policy, and yes, the principal implemented the policy. This went on for some time. This was not something that happened one day and was exposed the next day. This was going on for a while. Why? Adrian, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think this is all very illegal, except for that recording of the phone conversation, because Georgia is a one-party state. So the recording is just fine and admissible at trial, which is great, because as we know, generally when people are caught engaging in illegal behavior, they lie, deny. And in this case, that does not seem to be an option here. But I can tell you, Brown v. Board of Education, the US Supreme Court decision that came down saying that you cannot have separate but equal, there is no segregation, we have to have integration. That was 1954. Several decisions came after that trying to get people to actually do it, yet people did not do it, and it tore up our educational system for decades, and we have yet to come back as a nation. And it is so incredibly disheartening to know that people are reinforcing this segregation ideology. It really tells us that children are not born this way, rather they learn this behavior. And to see this principal do it, regardless of what her color is disgusting. And I do hope that she is removed as an administrator if she was allowing this to happen, because we do not need people to teach more racism or division in this world. We need people who bring others together.
Well, that is the hope of the parent. The parent says she needs to be removed, which makes me believe she has not been removed, even though we do not know the exact action of the school system. But think about how extreme this is. Literally, you have a conspiracy here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian, but if other teachers and administrators conspired with this principal in order to violate the federal civil rights statute, is that not a conspiracy based on the rule?
Oh, well, certainly it could be considered a conspiracy without question. I don't necessarily know if that'd be a chargeable offense because this is a civil rights violation. There are laws that say that, yes, we have like as I saw say a 1983 claim, if you deprive people of life, liberty, etc. But regardless, these people need to be removed, each and every one of them who saw this going on and allowed it, the teachers who played a role in it. These aren't people you should have in positions of leading children. I get that teachers are not paid enough, they are not well treated. I completely understand that. And thus there are a lot of hardships on the education system, but this is not one of them. This is a bigger problem, a bigger issue, and these people should not be in positions of leadership or power when it comes to navigating and really kind of just cultivating the future of our nation.
Yeah, and it teaches our children a horrible lesson that they should never learn from their school teachers, especially. All right, we got more. Ladies and gentlemen, Florida, got to bring your attention to this guy, Governor DeSantis. At this point, the new COVID variant is the DeSantis variant. 1/5 of all cases of COVID are connected to Florida, okay? That's how bad it is in Florida right now. Florida has now broken another record, a daily record for COVID-19 cases. This is the 3rd week in the row. that they are now #1 in COVID cases. A record-breaking 23,903 new COVID-19 cases were reported in Florida. That was last week. The state first reported its highest one-day total on July 31st. That was 21,683 new cases. Then again, on August 5th, at least 22,783 cases. And that number continues to go up. According to CBS News, COVID-19 hospitalizations in the state have also increased at record-breaking levels for 6 consecutive days, according to data from the Department of Health and Human Services. On Saturday, Florida recorded 13,747 hospitalizations related to COVID-19, with at least 2,753 patients in intensive freaking care statewide, accounting for 43% of the intensive care unit beds available in the entire state of Florida. Based on NBC's vaccination tracker, 49.3% of Florida's population has been fully vaccinated. Amid these surging numbers, large school districts in Florida are defying Governor DeSantis and his ban on mask mandates. As reported by the Tallahassee Democrat, Leon County Schools is the latest district to ignore the ban. Leon County School Superintendent Rocky Hanna announced that students in elementary and middle schools will be required to wear masks as the upcoming school year begins on Wednesday. Now, this is a good idea, right? They're trying to protect children. They're trying to protect that local district. Even though the governor has this ridiculous rule in place, they're going to violate it. So the governor threatens to take away their money, to take away their salary, to take away their funding if they violate his petty ass rule, even though they're protecting children in the process. This is not a good person. He's not a decent individual. He cares more about his politics than the people who have entrusted him to govern. There's a video. Let's go to the Superintendent Rocky Hanna's additional presser, the statement.
This speaks against what the Department of Health said, what our governor said, what our State Board of Education says. And at the end of the day, if something happened and things went sideways for us this week and next week as we started school, and heaven forbid, we lost a child to this virus, I can't just simply blame the governor of the state of Florida. I can't. And if there's an out and I didn't take the out and I didn't do what was best for the children here in Tallahassee and Leon County, that's on me. I just simply ask for your understanding that these masks, from the science that I've been watching and listening to for well over a year now, this mask not only protects the person wearing the mask, more importantly, it protects the person beside them and in front of them and behind them. And those children have the right also to a safe environment while in schools.
You know what's interesting? 89% of children understand how masks protect people. But Republicans don't seem to get it. All right, big ups to this superintendent for being diplomatic, but saying that he would go against the governor's mandate. Now, Governor DeSantis' office released a statement to CBS 4 Miami, claiming the state's education board could withhold salaries and funding for this level of defiance. That's how petty these folks are. They're literally talking about withholding money from school systems and taking away salaries because these individuals locally are trying to save the life of children. They're trying to do the right thing. What happened to Republicans being all about less government intrusion? Local government making their own decisions. What happened to those guys? Here's a portion of that statement. The State Board of Education could move to withhold the salary of the district superintendent or school board members as a narrowly tailored means to address the decision makers who led to the violation of law. It goes on. Education funding is intended to benefit students first and foremost, not systems. The governor's priorities are protecting parents' rights and ensuring that every student has access to a high quality education that meets their unique needs. A bunch of bunk. It's a bunch of bull. There's more video.
If the governor hands down some of the things that he's threatened, whether that's the, taking away funding. I mean, is there a constituency plan in place?
I'm glad you asked that question, because one thing that did concern me on that conference call, the emergency meeting, was I believe because it was a call, it's hard to tell, but I think it's been reported that Ben Gibson, who mentioned something about additional funding being taken from schools, which is very concerning. And then he quickly responded, but we wouldn't take any funding that hurts students. Anytime you take money away from schools, you hurt children. Let's be very clear. Anytime you take funding away from schools and away from children, you hurt them.
Yep, you do. Adrian, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think this is absolutely appalling. Per the analysis of Johns Hopkins University, their data, it shows that in most Florida counties, cases are at least 4 times higher than they were a year ago. Wow. 5 counties are reporting more than a 10-fold increase, and it's because in part cases among children are surging. The fact that we also have states that allowed children to be shot up and exposed to guns tells us, well, gosh, they're probably not gonna care about COVID either. And we get to see this play out where people are not protecting the future of our country. They're not protecting these children. And public health experts, also pediatricians, well, they said that the most important factor in deciding whether to start in-person classes in schools is the amount of viral spread in the community at large. And as we're seeing in Florida, it is spreading and it continues to get even more intense. And by virtue of the fact that they want to have these in-person classes, they want to sanction teachers and students for wearing masks, it tells you they do not give a damn about these kids.
Not one bit. Not one bit. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Well, the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help us over here. Drop it. We became the first ever daily online web television show.
No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process. That is America.
On top of it, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award.
Best web host.
Past 1 billion views.
Voice Award winner, News and Information Channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks.
Can I curse?
Yeah!
For those of you watching on the live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door.
Haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes.
Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against Fox.
I told you we were coming.
I mean, you talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America.
Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. Tick-tock. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. Tick-tock. And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock. And we're gonna run you out of town and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country.
November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
Back to back that I like. Say hi to the camera.
I don't like this.
Yep, welcome back. Always good to have you. Let's read some of these amazing viewer comments. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, stick and stay after Indisputable for Deep Dive with Jordan Yule, all right? Always follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram, Indisputable TYT, Indisputable TYT. TYT member Deanna says, Adrian and Double R talk about a power duo. Appreciate all you do, speaking truth to power. Thank you. We thank you back for that. Make it see the silver-haired dragon. How many of those new COVID patients in Florida are children? And how much worse will it get when Florida bans mask mandates in schools? And with Texas adding they will not notify parents if their child is exposed to a COVID positive and no contact tracing? Wow, I've gotten very cynical with age. I wonder if Republicans are intentionally allowing COVID to run rampant because they want the number of deaths as high as possible, especially children. Then they can use it in 2020 to scream, look at all the deaths that Biden and the Dems caused. You cannot put that past these cats, all right? You really can't. Felicia, I would not be sending my kids to school in Florida right now. Delta variant changed health policies, yeah. YouTube super chat. Jill Wagner, some days, it's so hard to stay hopeful. Thanks for giving me a small dose every day. Happy to see Adrian. Will continue to stick and stay. Thank you for that. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon. A shame about yesterday. You tried to talk truth to power, but power was out. Right. Brett took good care of us, but glad you're back. Thank you for that. And Brett is awesome. Peter Hamby. I've said it before on the network, and that racism works both ways. This is a reversal of segregation, which the blacks punish the whites. Interesting. Tamara Law. In England, we call Delta the Johnson variant, but DeSantis is so much worse. Don't these idiots get this as a global issue? We all have a responsibility, and we do. Exoteric Dragon, Doc and the Mighty, Adrian Lawrence, buckle seatbelt, good stuff. Sir Smoke It Right 74. Schools are doing that science. Schools are doing what science has proven to work. Wouldn't they win in court if they fought the mask thing? How did this pass as a law? Well, they're gonna have to fight it in court eventually, okay? Bottom line. Tiffany Powell, whoa, what decade is this? Exactly. Freedom Fighter, wow. A black principal telling someone that black students aren't allowed in certain classes in public schools. It's like my parents marched and demonstrated for nothing. Twitch, Chili Cheese Dragon. Adrian's hair looks so good, but she always looking amazing. You get so many compliments, Adrian. Must be nice.
I'm very kind, very kind.
Doormat 9, Scratch Mark says, just had another thought. Maybe Cuomo didn't want to go through impeachment because it could uncover a lot of corruption. Oh, and there's more coming out, believe it, okay? He's not out of the woods yet. Jax Drax, the majority of politicians work against the people because they assume everyone else is just as despicable as they are. Yeah. 1051. How many children will have to die before he realizes he is wrong, but he will never admit it? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, shifting gears, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel great! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I want to talk about this Tigger flag.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Okay, why not?
Now, I thought the American flag was real nice.
Uh-huh.
I don't say nothing about the shrubbery being cut. I don't say nothing about the backyard. But now, I don't like that.
Oh, okay, I didn't hang that. My brother hung that.
I know. I'm just telling you, I don't like it.
Okay.
And we have rules. I won't have to go find out what they are, but I don't like that.
I mean, this isn't a homeowners association, though.
No, but there's rules for the community. There is called Williamsburg something, and there's rules.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, I don't like it.
All right.
It makes it look tacky.
Welcoming.
Makes the neighborhood look tacky.
It doesn't, but that's okay.
Huh?
I said it doesn't, but it's okay. You're allowed your opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna find out about it.
All right. Well, you have a good day.
So this was the offensive flag. Yes, it is Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. TikTok banned my entire account last night for posting that video. I appealed it and they put it back up, but apparently y'all getting mad.
Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, T-I-double-G-R. You have a problem with that guy? Here's what I would have done, ladies and gentlemen. I would have loved to have been the homeowner answering that door. And she knocks on the door and says, I have a problem with your Tigger flag. Now I would have said, ma'am, let me solve that right now. I just ordered this beautiful Black Lives Matter flag. I'm gonna replace it right now. This Karen is at somebody else's home trying to enforce, not only this, she said, I didn't say anything about the shrubbery. I didn't say anything about the backyard. Why in the hell are you in my backyard, Karen? She said, I let you off the hook for all these other things, but damn it, this Tigger flag has gone too far. And they don't even have an HOA rule here. Amazing. Adrian, what are your thoughts here? You got a problem with Tigger?
I don't know, but I'm wondering if the neighbor had a problem with Tigger because it's too close to a word she's trying not to say. But I don't know. I ain't saying that though. What I am saying is that she's doing way too much. You can tell she's all up in her business saying, I let go of this, that, and the next. But I stand at this Tigger. I am a Pooh person, I back Pooh. The fact that you don't have a Pooh flag is problematic. Like, get out of here. The continual need to try to regulate what Black people do and to be up in their faces about it, as opposed to maybe stay on your property line and stand back. Like, it's nonsense. And that's exactly what all of this is. Leave people alone and go on about your way.
This was not a violation of any rule. This was not a violation of some kind of policy in that community. She just didn't like it. And I do find it quite amazing that she said, oh, this thing is making the whole neighborhood look tacky, right? I don't understand where the audacity comes from, right? To knock on somebody's door, a person that pays a mortgage, who has the right of expression here. You may not like it. You may not like the color of paint. You may not like something else in the yard, but that's their home. They pay for that home and they're able to do things like this. And I can also tell the way that Karen spoke, and by the way, the homeowner's name is Ambrosia. But the way that Karen spoke, Adrian, she mean as hell. You can tell she one meanie. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, double dose.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel great! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. That's what I'm talking about. Oh my God. The American spirit. Period. The American liberty. Period. Nobody has it. Take down your mask and rise up for freedom. Oh my God. That's what America's about. America's not about people like you. Rise up. Rise up. Is it so open right now? No. Girl. No. Rise up. Here we go. Shut your mouth. You want a revolution? Shut your mouth. Stand up. Mouth and walk. Let's go. You got this.
His demands were simple. Rise up and everybody take off your mask. I am embarrassed to report, ladies and gentlemen, this actually happened in my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia at Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport. Mask requirements remain in place for all airports under a federal directive. And with the Delta variant running amok, it is unlikely to rescind anytime soon. But this individual thought that he could lead a great uprising, and he was met with laughter. There seems to be one person who was trying to help him. We don't know exactly what happened after that, but he caused quite a disturbance. Adrian, why are some people so upset about other people wearing a mask?
I think a lot of people do not acclimate to change very well. And the fact that you do have to conceal a portion of your face, the fact that it reminds people that we are in an epidemic or we're in a pandemic and that people are getting sick. And I think it just conjures a lot of emotions and people want to return to the way things were. Also, we're in an airport. A lot of people like to guzzle, have a few drinks at the bar. Who knows what this gentleman was doing? It doesn't make it okay, but hey, he had his moment. I hope he feels a little bit better about it. It seemed that the individual, the woman who was with him, was recording him. I don't know what's all going on here. I just wish people would wear their mask, take their vaccine, and go on about their business so we can get past this and move on with our lives.
Do you find it politically more than ironic, hypocritical even, when individuals who say, I should not be forced to wear a mask, it's government intrusion. It's intrusion on my constitutional rights. These are the same individuals who will say the government should be able to intrude on a woman's right to choose. But they don't want you to intrude on their right to wear a mask.
It's a joke, an absolute joke. Why? Because we've been living our entire lives by going into establishments where they require shoes and a shirt or no service. And we go ahead and abide by those rules. So if they want us to wear a mask, if they want us to wear a Pooh Bear costume, whatever they want us to wear, if we want to patronize that business, then we gotta do it. It's not that hard. And the fact that people are so used to focusing on themselves and making themselves the center of this world, the thought that now you actually have to wear something across your face to protect your fellow brethren and sisterin, like get the hell out of here. That is just too much for some people because they are so damn self-focused.
Yeah, and it actually does come down to selfishness. And we have so many people who are sick, dying, and dead right now because of one thing, selfishness. And it has exhibited itself through the political arena. And obviously it has been made worse by those who are engaging in tribalism inside of politics because it becomes red meat for their own political function. But here's the reality. A lot of these folks, Adrian, they're not even afraid of the COVID vaccine. They just don't like it. They just don't want it. They don't want you to tell them to get it. They're not afraid of masks. They just don't like the fact that somebody is telling them to do it or that there's some kind of law or mandate. And I just wonder, where does it stop? So if you all have this much feeling as it relates to wearing a mask, well, why do you wear a seatbelt? Why do you get a license to drive a car? Why do you get a permit to have a gun? Go ahead and apply it all the way across the board and say, damn all the rules. You're gonna do exactly what you wanna do, and you're not gonna get anything and in terms of permission before you do it. Go ahead and take it all the way.
And you know what? It's interesting that you bring up seatbelts because I think they were instituted maybe about in the 70s, something like that. But people didn't wear them, and people still wouldn't wear them unless the car made that annoying beeping sound. If you didn't, you know, because some people out here, they have such arrogance and supreme rule in their mind that you can't tell them nothing. And we always know who those people are. They won't listen to a damn thing, and they're not gonna do anything for the greater good. Why? Because they are supreme and the world revolves around them. We have built too many arrogant people in our society, and they are going to be the death of us all.
Yep. Rise up, Adrian. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
We are on to something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you that say no corporate backed money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free healthcare for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer healthcare, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Just Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a betting.
Absolutely not.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I should have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
Welcome back. We got a lot of viewer comments. Let's get to it. And thank you all for chiming in. TYT member, Just Be Anti-Racist says, my son is always on his phone, on social media. But when our Wish a Karen Wood segment comes on, he always puts his phone down and watches the Karens. That's awesome. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. Oh my God, laughing my effing A off. Replaced with a Black Lives Matter flag? Dr. Richard has an evil mind. No wonder we love him so much. Yeah, I would have, that's exactly what I would have done. YouTube super chat, Adam Demont says, a Tigger flag, the audacity. Karen's gonna Karen, I guess. Keep up the great work, doctor. Also, we are still waiting on that indisputable merchandise. It is coming. I have been told it is coming. Oh, here's my girl, Kelly O'Hara. Tigger, the Karen trigger. Can't stand no more like a tired eyesore. Be more like Christopher Robin and quit your sobbing. Poo poo on you. Bars. Love it. Moondragon. I don't know why Flag Karen was against Tigger. Tiggers are wonderful things. Now her bad dye job. That was offensive. That's just wrong. Stoneflower Dragon says she will show him the video after he sobers up. Okay. Deidre Dragon. Oh no, Karen is triggered by Tigger. Yeah. Jansgar, Ashton Kushner getting crazy in the airport. Yeah. All right, Robert Anderson. If you tell Ricky Bobby not to stick that fork in his leg, that's exactly what he will do. LOL. All right. Mary Animal says, I don't know who that woman is, but she handled him. LOL. Supreme Gaming 365. I wish Karen Wood is one of the best parts of TYT, in my opinion. Thank you for bringing that fire. And thank you also. Ladies and gentlemen, shifting gears, 3 DC police officers have been suspended after punching a man repeatedly in the face. Here's the video.
Come on, man. We're trying. Hey, Mo. Guys, back up. Why you punching? Why you punching? Why you punching? Why you punching? No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. Why'd you hit him? Why'd you hit him? Come back. Man, why'd you hit him? Man,
if you continue to watch that video, the residents around this situation, they became more and more upset because of this officer punching this man in the face. You see, those officers were creating a bad situation for the other officers in that scenario. If no one punched this man in the face, you would not have seen this level of response from these other residents who said, wait a minute, you can't do that to him. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, we've been traumatized by video after video of unarmed black people or black people who were being arrested, being killed by the cops. That's traumatizing. And for an officer to engage in this manner, to punch a man in the face repeatedly, when obviously was uncalled for. Bad policing, I call it criminal. Let's go further. 3 DC police officers involved in an arrest of a man in Southeast Washington have been suspended and referred for possible criminal prosecution after one of the officers was seen on video repeatedly punching the suspect in the face. Now, leadership matters. We talk about leadership a lot on this show. There's a police chief. And this police chief said, we're not having this in my department. Police Chief Robert J. Conti told reporters that he was embarrassed and ashamed by what he saw. adding that it was inconsistent with the department's training, tactics, and values. Let's put up a picture of the chief. That's him. He provided leadership on this immediately. Prosecutors said in court on Monday that they would not pursue criminal charges against the men, and they were set free. We're talking about the people that you saw there. The Washington Post is not identifying the men because they are not charged with any crimes. DC Council Chairman Phil Mendelssohn, a Democrat, said he was pleased the chief quickly sent the matter to the US Attorney's Office, adding, "There's nothing in that video that justifies the officer beating the person." Nothing in the video whatsoever. And I completely concur. Now, there was a handgun at that scene. That charge has been dropped too. You see, this is what happens when you engage in bad and criminal policing. That even if you could have made a legitimate arrest, you committed an offense worse than the person you're trying to arrest. And now these cops, at least 2 of them, possibly 3, may be criminally charged themselves. But once again, it goes back to leadership. The chief of police, his actions were swift. He said, this is not the department that I'm going to oversee, and that he was embarrassed of how these officers handled themselves. They did not try to make it, I'm talking about leadership here. They did not try to make it about the victim. They didn't say, well, the victim was doing A, B, and C, or the victim had a gun somewhere. Nope, didn't give a damn. The attorney general said, hey, we're dropping the charges. We're dropping the charges in light of these bad cops. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically it. You see, this is bad policing all the way around. 100% bad policing. Adrian, being an attorney at law, you understand there are some people who should be arrested, and there are others who should not. But when you have bad police officers in the world, guess what happens? Everything gets thrown out the window because of bad cops. Why don't bad cops get the blame in the criminal justice system they should for jacking up the system?
Well, you know what, they don't necessarily get the blame because the system was built to cater to them and to oppress certain peoples. The thing about the prosecutor dropping the charges in this instance, it doesn't impress me much because the thought is what if the charges were trumped up? What if you didn't like the way he looked at you? What if he was just sitting on his stoop and all of a sudden you claim that he is, resisting arrest? All of these things that we've seen with these trumped up charges that are essentially fraudulent. And it was just a way to oppress brown and black men. And so the fact that the prosecutor dropped them doesn't really do much for me, but it will do a lot for me in the event that these officers are actually charged with assault, because that's exactly what they did. They had this man subdued to a certain extent, but not to the extent that they needed to punch him in the face, 3 times, and then punch him. I think he took some punches to the rib cage.
Yep.
What is going on here other than these individuals who've been suspended and need to be fired should not be in positions of power with state sanctioned authority? This is not okay.
Yeah, and what's very clear about the video, Adrian, everybody sees it. You have an individual who was unable, he's not fighting back. He's not punching anybody. He's not running away. He is subdued. And you have an officer using their fist in order to punch him in the face and then punch him in the body. And then the residents around, they start getting upset, and rightfully so, because we have seen this movie. We have seen this play out, and we have seen what it looks like when others just watch. You can't do that now. I'm serious, you just can't do that now. You have to say something if you see something. Okay, a huge tragedy. A security guard killed an unarmed black man at a Kroger. The black man his name was Alvin Motley. He was shot and killed Saturday at a Kroger by a security guard who got upset because of the music this man was playing. The security guard, his name is Gregory Livingston. He's been charged with 2nd-degree murder. Let's put up a picture of this scumbag. There he is. Security guard at the damn Kroger. When Memphis police responded to the Kroger at around 7 p.m., Livingston told officers he had shot a man identified as Motley. Motley lived in Chicago and had only been in Memphis for a few hours. His girlfriend witnessed the shooting and said an argument over loud music coming from their car preceded the violence. Police found Motley lying unresponsive near a fuel pump with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Let's put up the picture again of this alleged killer. This guy, security guard at the Kroger. Livingston yelled for the music to be turned down, witnesses said. According to Motley's girlfriend, she told him to get back in the car so they could leave, but he walked toward Livingston and told him, "Let's talk like men." Next, she heard a gunshot and Motley fell to the ground. Surveillance footage shows that Motley was holding a beer can and cigarette when he approached Livingston. According to a police affidavit, Livingston pulled his gun on Motley and the bullet struck him in the chest. A different witness identified Livingston, who is a former police officer with the Horn Lake Police Department, who served from 1998 until he resigned in 2001, as the person who shot Motley in the lineup. Let's put up a picture of Alvin Motley, murdered by a Kroger security guard because the security guard wanted him to turn down his music. The disregard for human life. Don't miss the fact that this killer, allegedly, was a police officer before becoming a security guard. Why did he resign from the force? We don't know, but we're checking into it. Adrian, what are your thoughts?
You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I wanted to know. Why did he resign? It wasn't so he could take a security guard position at Kroger. It was likely for some kind of misconduct. Not to throw any shade on being a security guard at Kroger, but I'd like to think being a police officer pays a lot more, especially in a lot of these cities, given how much the funding is. But also, you're absolutely right about the disregard for human life. The fact that he's willing to pull a gun on this man, this black man who has a traditional black hairstyle in terms of locks, and the thought that we are criminal in some way simply because we didn't turn down the music. The drive and the need to control what we do and regulate our bodies. And the fact that it is such an affront to this man by virtue of the fact that that black man had the nerve to stand up for himself. Get out of here. This is murder.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, but it's pure and simple. And remember, once again, the interaction was over something non-criminal. That's not criminal, that's commercial property. You can play loud music, it's not a residential neighborhood, so you're not talking about an ordinance violation. And this was a security guard, not a law enforcement officer. And this led to the death of somebody. Thank God for all of the witnesses who were there who said, listen, this was murder. This man committed murder. That's the guy who did it. Please take him to jail.
And you know what will be potentially interesting is that the man's family will likely sue Kroger. And so we could see a change in Kroger's policies in terms of maybe why are your security guards carrying armed, or why are they armed guards? It's Kroger, it's a grocery store. Are you afraid someone's gonna steal deli meat? Like, get out of here. So who knows, maybe Kroger will change its policies after this, but it definitely needs to maybe do a little bit of investigation before it starts to hire security guards and gives them weapons.
And you being an attorney at law, you know that if this security guard had a problematic history from his previous job or jobs, that becomes a liability for Kroger. And if the family sues, game over.
Negligent hiring, absolutely across the board, and especially if they didn't look into the reasons why he resigned as an officer.
All right, Adrian, always a pleasure. Thank you, sister, for being on Indisputable. How can people follow you? Check out your awesome book.
My book is anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, as well as at the TYT store. And you can follow me at Adrian Law on Twitter, at Adrian Lawrence on Instagram.
Thank you so much, sister. It's Indisputable, stick and stay.
So a lot of progressive office holders are doing something fun. I like fun. They're doing the last 2 years in 2 minutes. Okay, we're gonna try it here. First, I wanna let you guys know about the years before that. Hey, remember we started the Just Democrats here on the Young Turks. It was officially launched on our air, basically by you guys. And then we featured AOC, we featured Cori Bush, and Ro Khanna became the first ever Just Democrat incumbent, all on the Young Turks. Now, the last 2 years have been a spectacular follow-up to that. So let's put the 2 minutes on the clock and do this. Young Turks got to start back in 2002, and I think we've been an important part of the progressive movement ever since. What we mainly do is amplify the progressive voice and candidates out there, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Right now, we're currently #1 most engaged news politics network online, beating CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, all of them. We're #1 in total minutes watched. That means not only the number of people watching, but how long they watch. We just crossed 20 million followers and 500 million monthly views. Now, why? That's because actually the country's progressive. It's 2/3 progressive. And you guys have allowed us to be your voice, and we're incredibly thankful for that. So what did we do with that voice? Well, let's look at 2019. We went all over the country talking to you guys and the candidates. So we were in Miami, we were in Detroit, we were in Houston, and we were in Iowa. In fact, we were all over Iowa. You guys were all over Iowa, and all of the candidates saw you guys. We had wonderful people speaking, like the one and only Nina Turner at our rallies. Bernie Sanders stopped by, Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren. We interviewed almost everyone on the campaign trail, with the exception of Biden and Buttigieg. And we held them accountable. We even did a progressive economic pledge, and so many wonderful people signed on to that. Bernie Sanders, Warren, Marianne Williamson, AOC, the entire squad, Justice Democrats, and so many others. Now, on top of all that, we started a show called The Conversation, where we featured so many progressive thinkers, writers, and candidates. And one of the candidates we featured in 2019 was Jamal Bowman. Here comes Jamal Bowman. Then we had an amazing 2020. We hired a climate reporter. Damage Report passed 500,000 subscribers. Young Turks passed 5 million subscribers. We're getting the message out to more and more people. Bernie Sanders comes on in the heat of the primary. He comes on after the election to say what we're gonna do for the future. And then Marie Newman wins. Jamal Bowman wins. Cori Bush wins. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any better, here comes Nina Turner. Hello, somebody. And she's running for Congress, and she comes on the Young Turks first. On election week, we had nearly 2 million hours of viewing. We're #1 destination for progressives. You made all that happen. This is amazing, and thank you for those 2 years. What, I went past 2 minutes? Of course!
Viewers had asked for an interview with the TYT Lizard. Mr. Lizard. Oh, you changed colors today. Nice. I don't even know how you feel about us. Do you even like us?
Well, you guys made me this awesome house, so I'm kind of in your debt. I was found outside on the street, and you gave me a home. Granted, it was a really crappy home for a while, but then through the power of fundraising, I became a person who has a multi-level Trump-style mansion.
You do. By the way, you never looked better, man. Normally, you're just green or just brown, but today you're in mid-lizard, right?
I'm not very smart. I'm a lizard, so I don't know how the science works. I guess this is just my mood. It's not every day that thresholds like this are broken. I'm just so excited. I can't contain my pigmentation.
And now you're showing it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen the lizard like this before.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of viewer comments. Let me read as many as I can. TYT member Crafton Timo, for a bullpen, the good doctor should see if he can get a debate with Chris Chappell of America Uncovered. I think it would be fun and probably a bit more of a debate rather than simply correcting misinformation. Okay, you put it out there now. People are looking into it. Elected miscellanea. These cops don't care about the law. They don't care about order. I'm glad the police chief and the attorney general aren't going after the victims. and that they're hopefully going to hold the cops accountable for once. It looks like it's moving in the right direction, I will say. YouTube super chat. I think this is Lee Harvey or Lee Harv. The other should have stopped him dead on the spot. They are all guilty. And here's what's interesting about your comment. The police chief, when he wrote his letter, he reminded the other officers who were there that they have a duty to intervene. So he made sure that that was part of the open letter to those officers. All right, Moon Dragon. Of course, he's a former disgraced cop. Yeah. Mike V. This is why we need a national police officer record database. Yep. To identify who these people are before they start working under different entities. Agreed. Utterly discombobulated. I believe there are good cops when I see a video of a cop stopping another cop from doing ish like this. Mike Boy raps. Surely in his trial, they'll say, you can't use any evidence from when he was a cop. Actually, we're going easy on him for that. Yeah. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, I'm going to have you review some of our more iconic bullpens. We're gonna start doing the regular bullpen debates again very soon. So make sure you always stick and stay for that. But I do want you to keep in mind your most outrageous bullpen guest, okay? We got a lot to choose from, all right? Before I kick it to that, I want you to remember a few things. Make sure you take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of this planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable. Welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, I have conservative radio talk personality, TV host, extreme conservative, and he's proud of it. Pastor Jesse Lee Peterson, founder and president of Bond, B-O-N-D, and host of JLP Show and The Fallen State. Pastor Peterson, good day, welcome to Indisputable.
Thank you for having me on, I appreciate it.
Sir, you all have a celebration coming up next month. Are you not the founder of White History Month, I think, which starts in July?
Yeah, we're gonna be celebrating our 4th year of White History Month in July. And the reason that we started it in July is because if you notice, July just feels white.
Yeah.
You know, it's summertime, vacation time, relaxing time, reflecting time, and appreciating the greatest country on this side of heaven.
Gotcha.
And so we are recognizing that and showing our appreciation for it.
I think it's important for people to know you're not a comedian. What you're saying, right? What you're saying, this is actually you. You do this. You did found. You're the founder of White History Month.
Yes.
You've also been very critical of Juneteenth. You have called it a fake holiday, but you are. You want to make sure that everyone supports White History Month.
Absolutely.
I do want to have a policy discussion with you about the George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act. I'm going to attempt to have that policy discussion with you. Do you agree or disagree with the George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act?
I totally disagree because, as we all know, George Floyd was a black, unemployed drug addict with a criminal record. And I just
okay. Let's first of all, let's clear something up, sir. You really should be ashamed of yourself. You call yourself a Christian pastor. George Floyd is dead.
It's his fault.
He's dead because a cop killed him.
No, he's dead because he was a drug addict.
My question to you, and that's adverse to the evidence, by the way, what you just said. My question to you was about policy. So let me ask you, what in the policy of the George Floyd Policing Act do you disagree with?
The whole idea,
Which part of the policy? Jesse,
blaming the cops and no responsibility
Jesse,
for the blacks.
I'm asking you, what part of the policy is written? You can find it at congress.gov. What part of the policy, sir, do you disagree with? This is a simple question.
I disagree with the whole idea of a policy.
You haven't read the policy. You haven't even read the damn policy. Come on,
I don't need to read it. I don't need to read it to know the truth, because what I've noticed is that black people today, due to their lack of love, their lack of believing in God, they love evil more than they love good, right?
So that's the reason why you don't read.
And so
that's the reason why you don't read.
Right, because it was written by no good black people. And why should I waste my time knowing what they're about? Black folks today, and not all, but most, have no sense of direction. They're blaming everybody but themselves. And until they take responsibility for their own lives, they are not going to get better. The real truth is,
let me ask
George
you, sir,
Floyd is dead because of George Floyd and no one else.
That's a ridiculous point. But do you blame yourself for not reading the policy, or you blame somebody else?
Why should I read the policy when I already know the people? You
don't even know what's in the policy, do you?
I don't need to know, don't want to know. I know the people who are writing it, they're no good.
Okay, let's talk about Black Lives Matter. This is probably going to end up being an utter waste of my time having you on the show. What are your thoughts about
you
Black
don't know
Lives
that.
Matter?
You may learn something.
Well, we'll see, preacher. What is it about Black Lives Matter that you disagree with fundamentally?
Black Lives Matter was founded by a bunch of fat black radical lesbians.
Okay.
And who
All
hate
right, have a good
God.
man. Get this clown off my show. I appreciate you.
Who hate God, who hate the nuclear family.
Yeah. Listen, for those of you who wanted me to continue to engage that clown on this show, I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it. I'm only a human being, so please forgive me, okay? All right, here's what we'll do for the rest of the show. I will read some comments, and I know some of you will say, oh, Rashad, that was just so rude, and yeah, it was. I couldn't take any more of that foolishness. He's not going to make a debate in good faith, even if you oppose whatever I believe on the most extreme policy side. At least you have a policy argument. I can engage in a good faith debate about ideas. But if you want to utilize this platform to bash gay people, to bash black people, to bash communities that are disenfranchised, if that's all you want to do, then no, you won't do that here. And I'm sure all of his cronies, once he puts this on his social media feed, they will try to come after me. I want all the smoke. I'm good with every bit of it, all right? Okay, let's read some of the comments. We got some of the comments, let's do it that way. D. Pacman debated him a few times. He has no facts to back him up, says crazy stuff. If I was a Republican, I would be embarrassed. Yeah, but they don't call him out. He's kind of like Candace Owens, just his version of it. But he's even more extreme when you really think about it. He's the OG of that, whatever it is. He's much more extreme than anyone else. Okay, this guy has a point. The guy with the glasses, not the flaming racist bigot. All right, that was from Franco. Lauren McRae says, this embodies why we must continue to push for easy access to mental health services. Listen, I damn near fell out my chair on that one. That was funny. Lauren McRae, thank you for that. KR Williams 3876 says, thank you, Dr. Richie. Poliart says, thank you very much. I never understand why people entertain this idiot. I was shocked to see him on here. I tried. When I tell you, I did have a conversation with my producers before the show, and I promised, I said, listen, I am really going to try to have an actual policy conversation with this guy. And I did. I engaged in a good faith attempt. I hope you all saw that. We got a lot more. Gabby Mathis says, thank you for cutting this guy out. You're very welcome. Felicia Ritter says, much aloha and respect, Dr. Richie. Thank you. Stan Swish says, hold on to your butts. Beauty Divine says, I can't believe it's Jesse Lee Peterson. Please believe it. And he was exactly who he has always been, unable to engage in an actual conversation. Mad Maple Syrup, Dr. Richie doing the right thing, of course, showing JLP for the clown he is. Buck Dragon, no, there should be no place for that kind of nonsense anywhere. You did the right thing. cutting him. Well, I do appreciate that. All right. Before we end the show, I want to remind everyone that everything we do on Indisputable is aimed at one agenda, and that is to highlight truth. Now, sometimes that truth is difficult to accept. Now, we're not partisan, and we really don't care what political party or affiliation you subscribe to. What we care about is the fact that you care about the ultimate truth. Now, sometimes that truth can be adversarial to some people's lie. I've seen people who rather hold on to an old lie than accept a new truth, even though it is clearly in front of them. People like Jesse Lee Peterson, they will continue to attack everything that's contrary to their white-dominated social order. I mean, just think about the foolishness of this. Jesse Lee Peterson is the founder of White History Month. Need I say more? All right, let me go to some more of these comments. Okay, since I don't have a debate guest, let me just read the comments. Let's do that. Super chat. The Novel Shark says, let me compose myself. This is funny. Super chat for cutting off IRL Uncle Ruckus. Thumbs up. Chris Nesbitt, super chat for punting that guy to the curb. Yeah, and D. Pacman, David Pacman, who, and I've seen his interviews. David, God bless him. That man has the patience of Job. I don't have that. That's just not the way I'm built, okay? But God bless David for being able to deal with that. And I've seen David interview people all over the spectrum. I don't have that gift. More power to him. Tara Lee says he didn't even have the policy, just like you said. I can't stand people who talk ish about things they don't even inform themselves on. Yeah. 00083 gifted 2 tier 1 subs. Thank you. Lavana cheer 5 bits. Yeah. I didn't know about this. Maybe it's true. This is the same guy who got caught liking gay porn on his Twitter, yet tries to pretend to hate the community. You should have told me about that part. I would have used that in the beginning of the debate. That would have been my lead-in question. All right, we got to get on our research over here. Court for Jester says July just feels white. What the LOL? Spoonie 6157 Chittown says, Dr. Rashad, your time is too valuable to be spent on an idiot like Jesse Lee Peterson. Yeah, but see, I think I get points. I get an E for effort. See how that works? I actually attempted, okay? So I get some points here just for the attempt, even if it didn't work out the way I would have hoped. I really did want to engage in a very sensible, even though I know his policies are extreme, policy discussion. That's what the bullpen is for. But definitely not to have someone utilize the platform to bash individuals that I love. That's simply not going to happen on this show. All right, you can go to another show for that. All right. Nicole Smith. Well, let me go back up. Because a lot of people are coming in hot and heavy. Nicole Smith, thank you. It's exceedingly difficult to have an honest debate with fanatics, but I appreciate you trying every day. You're very welcome, and thank you for that. Forbeszilla says, will we ever see Doc Ritchie versus Doc Umar? You may. I've run into Umar on occasion. Not that Karen Dragon. Thanks for getting him off my computer. And Andrew Augustus says, much props for sending that guy unpacking. Let's go to my Twitch comments. Okay, we've read them. Yeah, I thank you all for the support and for the comments. I definitely took a risk with that one, but it is what it is. I gave him an opportunity, and it's amazing that he has so many followers. That baffles me. But let me tell you what this is really about. People don't really celebrate Jesse Lee Peterson. He's a pastor of nothing, okay? He doesn't have a thriving congregation. He gets his money by bashing black people, similar to Candace Owens. So white bigots who are unable to say what he says about black people will continue to pay Jesse Lee Peterson to say things against black and brown people, against members of the LGBTQ community. And he literally takes a position antithetical to these communities because he gets paid to do so. Once again, the definition of sellout. But don't you find it amazing that there are so many bigoted individuals in this country that they will literally make a man, make a person rich, or try to, just so that that person can keep talking trash about other communities. And that's all that brother is. That's it. I did think he could engage in a conversation. I didn't know he was that far gone. But obviously he cannot. Moo Fins says, I felt bad for the pastor. He's been gaslit to be a racist against himself. He wasn't mentally equipped to critically think himself out of the propaganda he's been fed. Yeah. Genocide 2002 says, I bet that guy has a list of words he was supposed to try to get out on the show, and he just started reading them right from the list. He's practiced all of those words, I'm sure. He says that kind of stuff on a regular basis. Jam Tomb 63958 says, Dr. Richie is our king of truth. I wear that badge with honor. I appreciate that. Thank you. So what do we do? What's the remedy here? The remedy is not fixing everybody. And we all have to get out of the mindset of pressuring people to change their mind. And we have to adopt the mindset of replacement. Like literally, we have to start replacing people that are in charge of policy, replacing individuals that we listen to in the narrative of our social reality in this country. Because it's obvious now, more than ever, that we have reached a level of critical mass. We are in the middle of a tribal era in politics to where no one seems to care about the dogmatic truth anymore. There are people who will see a Jesse Lee Peterson and they will see that I shut him down and they will blame me for that, which I'm fine with. But I want you to consider something. If we allow people like that to spew propaganda against communities that we actually do support, that we do care about, then that person is empowered to not have policy conversations. That person is empowered to simply spew rhetoric. Well, he can do that all day on Fox News. He can't do that here. We got some more comments. All right, let's, another super chat. Thaddeus Nall says, Jesse Peterson is the real life Clayton Bigsby, Dave Chappelle's blind Klan leader. He's a grifter who is too dumb to know that he's a grifter. Man of Tomorrow, and just so you know, Man of Tomorrow, I did read your comment from yesterday because you dropped that C note on there. I said, I gotta read this brother's comment, all right? It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on not understanding it. Upon Upton Sinclair quote. That's a beautiful quote, by the way. JLP is purposeful in what he is doing. Very purposeful. Yeah. PhD Eva 5 says Adrian needs to serve as mediator. I just have an idea that she would be in total agreement with me. I don't know if she would be a great mediator for that guy. Let me bring your attention to the bullpen we had a few days ago with conservative pastor Jesse Lee Peterson. Okay, my producers did that, and that's hella funny. I wish a Karen would. Yes, Jesse Lee Peterson was the ultimate Karen. He is playing the ultimate Karen now. So if you were not tuned into that show, the bullpen segment is obviously typically the debate segment. We literally give the debate guest the topics that we're going to talk about. Why? Because I want you to be able to know what we're talking about, research it, have an informed opinion about it, and engage in a good faith dialogue, a good faith debate. Well, this individual, Jesse Lee Peterson, decided not to do that. He wanted to come on my show and bash gay people, black people, lesbians. That's what he wanted to do. He did not want to engage in a good faith debate. So he decided, after I kicked him off the show, to do a whole show about me kicking him off the show. And I do have a response to this conservative clown. Let me first remind you of some of the things that happened on that show. He is the founder of White History Month. And when I brought this up, notice my face, because I almost lost my composure laughing, not with him, but laughing at him. Here it is. Sir, you all have a celebration coming up next month. Are you not the founder of White History Month, I think, which starts in July?
Yeah, we're going to be celebrating our 4th year of White History Month in July. And the reason that we started it in July is because if you notice, July just feels white.
Yeah.
You know, it's summertime, vacation time, relaxing time, reflecting time, and appreciating the greatest country on this side of heaven.
Gotcha.
And so we are recognizing that and showing our appreciation for it.
I think it's important for people to know you're not a comedian. Yeah, he's not a comedian. He was serious about White History Month and the celebration of it. Now, he bashed Juneteenth and he has the typical Sean Hannity talking points about other things, but he goes even more extreme. Now, remember, I literally make sure he has, or any debate guest, they have what we're talking about. They have the topics. My production team, greatest on the planet, they make sure that their people receive all of the topics that we will discuss. It's very fair and it's very transparent. I asked them about the policy discussion that we were supposed to have in reference to the George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act. Well, here's his response. What in the policy of the George Floyd Policing Act do you disagree with?
The whole idea,
Which really part of the policy? Jesse,
blaming the cops and no responsibility
Jesse,
for the blacks.
I'm asking you, what part of the policy is written? You can find it at congress.gov. What part of the policy, sir, do you disagree with? This is a simple question.
I disagree with the whole idea of a policy.
You haven't read the policy. You haven't even read the damn policy. Come on,
I don't need to read it. I don't need to read it to know the truth, because what I've noticed is that black people today, due to their lack of love, their lack of believing in God, they love evil more than they love good, right?
So that's the reason why you don't read.
And so
that's the reason why you don't read.
Right, because we're written by no good black people.
That's what he said. That's the reason why he doesn't read, is because policies are written by no good black people, or at least that policy was not worthy of his research. Now remember, we always make sure that the guest receives everything they need in order to engage in an intellectual debate about the topic or the policy. His people are failing him at his workplace. They are failing him. Now, this is what Jesse Lee Peterson said about me.
It was on the Young Turks Network. And the show was called Indisputable. And I had no idea how the show was gonna go. As I do with all things now, I have a wait and see attitude. Most of the time, I don't even, most of the time I may ask my PR guy, well, what do they want to talk about? And he'll tell me what they want to talk about. I do no research, I don't write down notes. I have no pre-planned idea of what I'm gonna how I'm gonna respond or what I'm gonna say, right?
That's a damn shame. It's not just a shame that he literally said, and I quote, "I do no research." It's a damn shame that he has people following him for information. Ladies and gentlemen, he decided to go on and attack Black Lives Matter. He utilized terminology that was offensive and truly did not live up to a serious program. So I did what I had to do, and here's that. What is it about Black Lives Matter that you disagree with fundamentally?
Black Lives Matter was founded by a bunch of fat Black radical lesbians.
Okay.
And who
All right,
hate
have a good
God.
night. Get this clown off my show. I appreciate you.
Who
Thank you for
hate
being-
God, who hate the nuclear family.
Yeah. Listen, for those of you who wanted me to continue to engage that clown on this show, I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it. I'm only a human being. So please forgive me, okay? All right, here's what we'll do for the rest of the show. I will read some comments. And I know some of you will say, "Oh, Rashad, that was just so rude." And yeah, it was. I couldn't take any more of that foolishness. He's not going to make a debate in good faith. Even if you oppose whatever I believe on the most extreme policy side, at least you have a policy argument. I can engage in a good faith debate about ideas. But if you want to utilize this platform to bash gay people, to bash Black people, to bash communities that are disenfranchised, if that's all you want to do, then no, you won't do that here. So Jesse Lee Peterson, he had his cronies, just as I predicted. They started tagging me on social media, calling me a beta male. That's the language they speak over there. And saying that I ran away from Jesse Lee Peterson. So here's what Jesse Lee Peterson told his followers to do if they encountered me.
So if you see Dr. Rashad Richie walking down the road, ask him why did he put a towel between his legs and run from Jesse Lee Peterson. He invited me on the show. I didn't invite myself. You would think he would have been ready. Are you ready? Are you ready for the coming of the Lord? Are you ready? Are you ready for the coming of the Lord? Be also ready.
The man says he does not read. He says he does not research. He's all over the place mentally. If he did not have that damn show, he would be unemployed and homeless. What other skill does he have? Nothing. Now here's my official response to whatever crony he may send my way. Here's my response back to Jesse Lee Peterson.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.